Oh, we're back. Oh, Davin, you're muted.
Oh, why from Nova?
You were muted. You literally just said you were muted. Start over.
This just in. Giant monsters of various descriptions and ferocity have been filmed rampaging across the globe. Why, from Nova Scotia to Japan, awe and destruction has befallen our fellow man. With all attempts to stop the fantastic and frightening behemoths ending in failure or worse. You may be asking yourself, dear listener, how can I prepare myself for and those I hold dear for the times of titanic terror ahead? Well, this host is no expert, but collect whatever provisions you can, quickly, and find shelter in a storm cellar, basement, or failing that, wear heavy clothing. Because tonight's theme is giant monsters.
Oh, yeah, buddy. Good thing.
We are Hold Up, a movie podcast.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Not too bad. We're your host, Davin and Murphy. World Mind, Skellhorn, whatever you want to call us.
I like Murph Baby and Skellywogger. Can I do that?
Sure.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Murph Baby, Skellywogger. It's a pleasure to be here.
And that is the voice of our guest, Andrè Myette.
I love how incestuous your little podcast network is.
Co-host with the most.
Because it's just
Future is old school.
That's right. Oh, man. Why don't I have a t-shirt that says that? I'm totally stealing
it. I've been putting this in your comments every time you make a post. I don't know
why it's never registered until this very moment, but it's maybe hearing you say it did it. I don't know. But it's great. You're my new marketing director.
Future is old school.
Yeah, that's my next shirt. I just got new shirts, but the next shirt will say that for sure.
Sweet.
Season 2, episode 11.
Our own giant monster, Andrè Myette.
Oh, baby, I've been waiting for giant monsters. I've been on the docket for this one for a while.
It's true. I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah. And for once on your guys' show, I'm an avid listener, by the way, for those been tuning in. I listen to every episode.
I comments on it. Usually yells at me about it.
I usually just yell at Davin because I disagree with half the things he says and have the poor horror he puts Murph Baby through. It's mostly just me like in the car going, "Why are you so mean to Murphy?" I told Murphy earlier.
Like, you heard what he said. You heard what he said to me.
I told Murphy earlier, waiting for the eventual murder-suicide that wraps up the show. You guys just someone kills the other one and think themselves at a degree.
Who's gonna be which?
Vote now. Yeah. Vote now.
I'll have you know, I responded.
He did. He responded with a GIF from
Southland Tales.
Southland Tales, which I thought was even funny.
And pimps don't commit suicide.
They don't. That is true. But no, a big fan of the show.
Nor do they watch Southland Tales, but
for the first time, I think in a long time after listening to the show, this one actually has 3 movies that apply to the theme. It's amazing. It's amazing.
There are giant monsters in all 3 of these movies.
All 3 of them feature giant monsters, and they are an integral part of the plot. So it's good. It's good. I'm
with a bit of alcoholism, you know.
Yeah, well, that is a different type of monster, but also one that needs to be explored.
Also a beast on your back now.
Yes, that is true.
All right, well, why don't we jump over to Theater 1 then?
Get right into it, shall we?
Get right into it.
Right in there, buddy.
The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms from 1953, starring Paul Hubschmid, Paula Raymond, and Cecil Kellaway, directed by Eugene Laurie.
Like Hubschmid.
Yes. Who I also refer to as Cary Grant Light.
This was Davin's pick. Davin, you got to start picking movies you watch first.
No, that's not the point. The point of this podcast is to see things I haven't seen for the most part.
That is true. And this one actually is more, to me, a historical document than a real film. Like, it is a film, obviously. But
I enjoyed this movie.
I did too. But it is very, like, this is pre-Godzilla. This is, like, very old school. And it's like, people watch it, they may think it's boring, whatever. But, it started the whole thing pretty much. It was definitely one of the big footsteps. I can't remember the name of the creature in this. Is it a Rhodosaur or something?
Rhodosaurus.
Yeah,
a Rhodosaurus. Walked so that Godzilla could run.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought the pacing was pretty good. I thought some of the dialogue was funny.
Great motion effects.
Yeah.
I was it was pretty decent. I wasn't
And the black and
totally
white was
disappointed.
very cool as well. And there's
Yeah.
one part of this movie which, when I found out what it was loosely based on, I was very impressed by, because it's one of my favorite things. So.
I thought, we'll get into the plot here in a sec, but yeah, all in all, I thought it was pretty good. And what did you think of Cary Grant? Like he that guy reminded me of Cary Grant in so many ways. But
I can see that.
he
Well,
was
I mean,
pretty good.
it's from a time period where all the men kind of look like Cary Grant. Like Cary Grant was just like the most Cary Grant of all the Cary Grants.
Yeah, it's true. But he was also sort of had like that accent thing going
The
on.
Cary
That
Grantiest.
Mid-Atlantic. But
oh yeah, I love, and the references to Canada and
Nova Scotia.
Oh yeah, so many Canadian. Yeah,
Nova Scotia,
running right through Nova Scotia.
Saint Pierre, Nova Scotia.
Some reason the Nova Scotian guy is super French. He's just like, oh, I don't speak English. I just thought that was really funny.
Well, the newspaper article's from Saint Pierre, Nova Scotia, but Saint Pierre is actually a part of France.
Yes, I mean, obviously they didn't do it. Neither did. Yeah, it could have been Acadian, I guess, but I'm of Acadian descent, and all of my relatives can speak fine English.
And I think the second place they mentioned was like Mariette, Nova Scotia. And I'm like, where is Mariette, Nova Scotia? They just took like the two Frenchest places they could think of, and just they're like, that's in Nova Scotia. Americans
have a very interesting the depiction. The depictions of Nova Scotia in fiction over the years have been really entertaining to me, because they have a veiled knowledge of where we are. They know where we are roughly, and they've heard of Nova Scotia lobster and Peggy's Cove and stuff like that. But like, they have no real frame of reference. Like, there's a show that was kind of good when I first started watching it and kind of got bad, called The Blacklist. And there was an episode. It was James Spader was the main character, and he played this criminal that worked with the government to character and other criminals. But they have an episode where he's trying to find his mentor. Stacey Keach plays him, who ran off with a bunch of money, and they track him to Truro, Nova Scotia. It was actually the town I live in, and they show a picture of Truro, Nova Scotia, and it's like on the water. It's like, it looks like Lunenburg. Like it's a very coastal town that's right on the water.
Water's not muddy at all. That's not true. Nova
Scotia.
It
definitely wasn't the title board. But one of the main guys in the show is from Pictou, I guess, in real life. So they may have asked him for like a vague place in Nova Scotia to said something, and he said Truro. That's my guess. But as one of the best lines in it is, someone says, like, where's all the money you stole? Or you still have all this money? And he goes, you think if I still had all that money, I'd be living in Truro, Nova Scotia? That line gets me every time.
Well, with that all said, you got something there?
Oh, you have a trailer, do you?
Oh, yeah, throw it up there.
All right, let's hit it.
Well, I'm curious. I like old school trailers like this. This will be fun.
Yeah, I want to know, have you guys ever seen this trailer?
I have not. No, God, no.
No, I wasn't alive for a long time before.
Are we delivering into mysteries we weren't meant to know?
Say there are things better left unsolved.
Mankind challenging powers behind the cosmic barriers?
Who knows what waits for us in nature's
beautiful black and white in this.
Will science unleash the fearsome forces of lost worlds?
Very enjoyable to look at, and like of all the scenes of like the ice collapsing and stuff, it would go on and they'd show you different angles and different. There's only one thing that to me looked quite silly, but I'll get to that.
When a guy fell?
For various authorities,
no, I was fine with that.
Somewhere under the polar ice cap, in a state of suspended animation, are the awesome creatures, the leviathans that roamed the earth at the dawn of time. And under certain conditions, a nuclear explosion could free one from his icy tomb. Then, guided by instinct, the beast would come back to the caverns of the deepest Atlantic, where it was spawned. An armored giant, wreaking his prehistoric fury on modern man and his puny machines. Cities would be terrorized by the cruel.
They're showing like all the best shots in the movie in this trailer.
Crazed and panicked with fear,
as they always do.
Destructive force.
Yeah.
Granite and steel would crumble. Soldiers and their weapons would be powerless before the onslaught of the beast. The beast. The beast.
The beast.
The beast.
The beast.
From 20,000 fathoms.
Herald Square, 34th Street, Broadway. Every section of the city is guarded. No one knows where the monster will strike next.
Another one, Colonel?
No.
You know where the radioactive isotope
No.
is?
No, but if it can be loaded, I can fire it.
I'll load it.
Oh,
Just remember one thing.
Shit.
This is the only isotope of its kind this side of Oak Ridge, so you can't miss.
I should have picked this as my favorite scene. But here it is
A
anyway.
lot in the fucking trailer.
The importance and impact of the Saturday evening post-thriller. That helmed millions spellbound, comes alive with its stark, screaming terror. In a story that began 20,000 centuries ago, the beast from
The beast.
20,000.
Okay. So the beast is from 20,000 years ago, but it's also from 20,000 fathoms. What are the coincidences?
No, it's from like 100 million years ago.
The guy just said 20,000 years, or
Well,
did he say
in the
20,000
movie they
fathoms?
say 100 million.
Yeah, I know. They have a kind of an odd way to explain why it's still alive, I guess, but it works. It's movie logic because the movie needs to happen is why.
Yeah. Well,
let's get into it.
The movie does happen.
I'm thinking Murphy wasn't quite as enamored with this film as Davin and I.
Well, the movie starts off. They do an atom bomb test, seemingly off the coast of Baffin Island. So I don't know how. I don't know. I feel like Canada should be a little upset about that, but it awakes a reptilian type creature which is frozen in the ice, that's kind of an interesting thing because it should be cold-blooded, yet it's like it's in the Arctic and can swim and not just fall right back asleep again. But
what's to say
atomic bomb, it warmed its blood up real good.
Just bombs going left and right off the coast of North America, like no fallout, no nothing. It's all good.
Yeah.
Well, you should
know.
It was
the 50s.
My favorite scene in the movie was actually in the beginning, and it was the conversation between these two guys.
Bring it on.
Wait, no, hang on. Sorry, that's the trailer.
Weeks of preparation. It's all over in a second, huh? Jack, when energy of that magnitude is released, it's never over. What the cumulative effects of all these atomic explosions and tests will be, only time can tell.
This accent was weird.
Tell, huh?
It was
very strange.
The world's been here for millions of years.
It's like a European guy or like an American guy trying to be a European guy or with a mid-Atlantic accent as well or something like that.
So, Richie?
I don't know.
That's right. Richie. You know, every time one of these things goes off, I feel as if we were helping to write the first chapter of a new Genesis.
Let's hope we don't find ourselves writing the last chapter of the old one. You sound like a man that's scared, Tom. What makes you think I'm not?
But it kind of made him interesting to listen to at the same time. It made the movie better that he talked like that.
Yeah, so the way the conversations that he would have with like him and like the scientists and stuff, and like him trying to like sort out what was going on and what he saw in the Arctic was some of my favorite parts in this movie easily.
Yeah, actually, I like those conversations. There's one with the older professor guy too. I really like.
Yeah, those were some of my favorite conversations with him and the.
He was really good. I don't know what is with old people in these old movies, because remember when last time we did this, we did that love movie, the Quest for Love movie, the parallel universe one, and the old guy, the old scientist guy, was the most entertaining part of that too.
It's true.
He's when he's shushing them because he's explaining all the important stuff.
They hired some wacky characters.
Yeah, old guys are getting those work.
Yeah, but so yeah, and the main character there, Joe Nesbitt. Tom, is it Tom Nesbitt?
Nesbittian.
So
Nesbittian.
Yeah, I think it's Tom Nesbitt. But anyway,
Professor Tom Nesbitt.
Yes, Professor Tom Nesbitt. He's a professor, and he sees the creature, and no one believes him, and they think he's crazy. But so he goes to talk to this, like the paleontologist.
There were two guys that saw the creature because they went out to go do something, and they were worried about radiation. I watched this like last night, very late last night while I was working, so it's still fresh in my brain.
I just finished watching it.
Because there was two guys, and one guy saw the monster and then fell rather jankily off of like a cliff because he was so shocked, and then the other guy found him, and when he was like hearing his last words, basically he looked up and saw it as well. But because that guy died, and then it was like they tried to pass off what he saw as stress from his friend dying.
Yeah. But he wants to go talk to this paleontologist anyway. And he's just like, I'm super excited about this creature. You're going to be over the moon about this, Doc. And the guy's just like, yeah, but I hear a lot of crazy stories, and there's a sucker born every minute. So I'm not really feeling your story. He's just like, well, I'll get proof, blah, blah, blah. And he goes up to, first he calls this very, very French guy in Nova Scotia.
Well, because there was a record of somebody else seeing this thing. Because nobody believes him, right?
And he's talking about a sea serpent, and people are like, yeah, no. The French guy doesn't want to talk to him. But it's funny. You don't know he's going to speak French, but the French guy asks him to speak French, and he just flips on a dime and starts speaking French to the guy.
Oh, he's an academic. He knows every language in the world.
Yeah, exactly. It was pretty slick. So then he hears of this other fisherman, and he goes to meet this other fisherman who's been hiding away and doesn't want to talk to anybody. He's just there with like a nun.
He's like, just hanging out with a nun.
Yeah, he's like hanging out with a nun in a hospital bed. And the buddy comes in, he's like, "No, I believe you. I need you to come to the big city and talk to my friends. They'll believe you too." It sounds like a bit of a setup. So yeah, where was then pretty much my favorite scene probably comes in about here.
Well, yeah, after they after they convince the generals and stuff to start checking the coastline.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because more and more reports start showing up about this thing.
This is basically your and Andre's favorite scene.
Oh, this is my favorite scene too.
Something about gin and wild women.
Oh, how'd it go?
Oh, I don't remember. Stuck the titles in the box to hear it again, and the thing busted down. Yeah, well, you know me. I couldn't carry a tune in a bushel basket.
I like the ballads, the old ones that warm you even when the fog is a foot thick.
This I think is the best looking shot.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, this looks fantastic. The whole thing,
yeah, this scene it just by itself is a masterclass in old like what they could do in old timey filmmaking. Even the choice of making a silhouette like that, just makes it so cool. Those poor bastards.
They're like, "Get down to the bottom." He's gonna tear the roof off this place.
Yeah, this part was cool.
Old Ray Harryhausen effects too. Beautiful work.
Oh, yeah, look at that. That looks amazing. Like, the girders and stuff that's stay behind. Very great.
Fun side note, and this might be a morsel for later. The reason I chose the scene is because I didn't realize this, but this movie was very loosely based off a Ray Bradbury story called the what was it called? I should remember this. It's about the lighthouse, maybe I think is what it was called, but it was about these two guys that live in this lighthouse. This young guy comes to work with this old guy that's been there forever, and every year the old guy tells him that every year around this time of the year, this creature comes out of the ocean, and it's like some ancient creature older than time that doesn't seem to have any, and it seems lonely, and it comes up and it's almost the foghorn. It's called the foghorn. That's the name of the episode. And the foghorn reminds the creature, apparently he thinks, of its kind, so it comes out and it like calls back to the foghorn in the light. And then so this happens, and the young guy convinces the old guy to turn it off and see what happens, and then the creature destroys the lighthouse. And they're left sort of wondering what they did, and now this creature has nothing to feel like it's home. And it was just such a sad, lonely kind of story, but it was just such a cool little. I had this X-Files comic back in the day where they would do X-Files stories, and they'd have these weird little backup horror stories. And one of them was an adaptation of this. They used to do other Ray Bradbury ones, like The Sound of Thunder was in there and some other ones too. But that one always really touched me. There's something about the art, something about the story itself. It was really cool. So I was very impressed that it was this part basically is the only one that's based on it. But it was like that it drew from, but it directly drew this from that.
I like that the monster in this has some motivation as well. He's not just rampaging. It's trying to get back to its like ancestral breeding ground or something. They're like, we found a skeleton of it here. Like that was written really well, I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And the one joke made me laugh my ass off too, where like it's like a radio report of the fishermen saying they saw monsters. Just like they should stop smoking that stuff and start smoking premium gold.
yeah, I like that too. It's almost like a parody of that stuff. It says this from the time period where it was very much part of that stuff. It just is how it is, which I thought was really
I
funny.
was pleasantly surprised by most of this movie. I was kind of on the edge of my seat a little bit. I found it enjoyable. So now they have he just takes the fisherman guy back to see the paleontologist, and all it takes to convince the paleontologist is for that fisherman to select. They have these pictures that this other scientist, the paleontologist's assistant, had that were just like sketches of all known prehistoric animals. So they're just having the main character Nesbitt go through all of those until eventually he comes across one that's very much like the monster that we see, the Rhodosaurus, I guess it's called.
Is this a real dinosaur, by the way? I didn't think to look this up.
No,
I was curious. Okay, I didn't think so. So it's like,
it's just like an upscale iguana.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I wonder if they used one for some scenes, but it seems like it's very much, kind of iguana-like, but also supposed to be a dinosaur. But it definitely very much resembles just a big iguana.
So then the fisherman chooses the same one, and the paleontologist is like, "Wow, I'm convinced." Like, it's not like the guys could have like been in cahoots before they walked in there and be like, "Select the one that looks like this." But anyway, the paleontologist fella is easy to convince, but so he calls the military, or the general guy, and actually gets their attention, and then they start trying to, fortify the coast, and because they think it's on the way to New York, because that's where they found the skeleton, and it seems to be following, like, it went from like Baffin Bay to like the Grand Banks off Newfoundland to Nova Scotia and then Maine, and then it's like they think it's heading towards New York, because it's a movie, everything happens in New York.
Exactly.
It's like the Marvel Universe.
Every alien invasion in Marvel Comics happens in New York City.
It's because of
also every comment about to strike the Earth, consider the planet is like 80% water. It always heads towards a major city somehow.
Yeah.
What are the odds?
I do like that, and I do like the conceit that it's just this prehistoric creature. It's kind of back rather than some like mutated whatever Godzilla is.
Yeah, they don't really. The fact that they're using nukes and all that didn't seem to matter. Like, it wasn't really part of it. Yeah, it just woke it up. Like, it wasn't really
melted its ice or whatever.
Yeah, which was an inch. I guess.
Well, that's why they show all that collapsing ice. I guess they show a lot of shots of different like collapsing ice and snow.
Yeah, well, I guess Godzilla was the the first to kind of do all this. So maybe that wasn't even an idea for them until now. So.
Yeah. So then the paleontology guy asked the general if he has a diving bell. And what they bring him is not what I understand a diving bell to be. I always understood a diving bell as it actually looks exactly like a bell. So it traps water or air in the top, and you just lower it on top of you and then down into the water, like an actual bell. But they bring him like a full-on submersible on a chain. And so he wants to. This old
that scene was the funniest to me. All right, that was actually meant to be my favorite scene.
That was my least favorite scene. So like when they're down in the sub, it's all tense for a second. You're like, oh, this could be a great scene. But then they like look out the window and it's just shots of them. Like they clearly just took an octopus and a shark and put them in a tank together. Like it's not even like the ocean or anything. So they just had two like PETA would be all over them in like these days. They never would have got away with filming that scene because I'm pretty sure that was animal torture. But
yeah, it was just a shark and an octopus just scrapping in a tank. There's nothing special there.
So that was really distracting and horrible. So I didn't really like that scene.
I was like, well, great. But like you gotta think about it. That was back in 1953. Both of those animals would be dead regardless by now. So it's like,
yeah, but they still shouldn't have saw it. I guess, but that's like saying, well, I could torture someone, now because eventually they'll be dead. It's a slippery slope if you're going into ethics. Well, I tortured a guy in my basement for a few years, but he'll still go on and live a full life and die eventually.
Oh, vegan over there being like, they'd have been dead by now anyway, just like all those cows for a hamburger.
That's right.
For the sake of film, let's watch something where the horses fall off a cliff.
Oh God, I hate that stuff. There's a horror movie I've always wanted to watch but never did because they kill a turtle in them too, and I just You'll get there.
Cannibal Holocaust.
That's correct.
Yeah, I watched that.
But apparently there's a version of it that takes that out, so I'll probably watch that.
I've never heard about that, but I mean,
I think on the 4K or something they have a cruelty-free version of it or something.
It's really, it's
not a good movie on its own.
Not really.
Yeah.
No.
Well,
because
it's
like
old school horror. It's kind of a different.
it's very old school horror, but I remember specifically that like the director was put on trial and had to bring in the actors to prove that they weren't actually killed because that movie was so extreme.
People believe that I think that he'd really killed somebody, so he had to go in and prove in court they were all still alive and bring in the actors to show them.
Because the gore scenes of that on the human beings are pretty bad, like they're pretty gruesome. But the
gruesome enough that you think no one would buy that wasn't real. Like that's kind of
nice. But the fact that it's dichotomied with like actual animal, like there's a monkey's face that gets chopped off with a machete at one point.
Oh shit!
Rip
they
open
really go
a turtle. Yeah, they rip a turtle open in half. Those were really the two that stood out to my mind. I don't know if there's anything other. Yeah, it wasn't the greatest. I kind of wish I didn't watch the film, but I did.
No, so you can't
back to this one.
No, I want to talk about that one for a while.
No. So then they find the monster down in the ocean on their first try.
What luck?
And the old man thinks it's great right up until the second he's eaten by it. Even that doesn't seem to have said.
I love how they're just like
happy old guy. What? Hello, Professor?
Professor, where'd he go? Professor?
This is marvelous. It's like about to eat him, and he's like, "This is fantastic. You wouldn't believe it."
I hope you weren't eaten by it, Professor. Where, Professor?
He doesn't clearly have, was that like fear of giants or fear of being eaten? I don't know what the actual technical
No, they told him to be scared when he first gets in the submissive. He's just like, oh, Rhodosaurus and I are old friends.
I'm like, gonna pet its uvula.
He doesn't know that.
I'm gonna pet its uvula. On my way down.
Really so that old guy was pretty great.
That's really good.
So then basically they start fortifying New York, and they have this whole plan where they're going to shoot it with bazookas, and they set up like electrical fences, and they have this cool roller coaster.
This cool, I forget the roller coaster was interesting. It's an odd choice. They got this they got this thing, so it was her damage. It was hurt. It had like a hole or something in it.
Yeah,
and then
it had a cut in its neck, and they were like, well, we can't explode it because if we explode it, it's basically its blood is going to mist into the air, and everyone's going to get sick about it. Which was another part of this movie that I was a big fan of, the fact that like the biology of this creature was making people sick.
Yeah, that's right. Everyone was just down. They're like, "Oh, the men are down. They're just down.
They're getting sick real fast." And so their solution to kill it was to hit it with a uranium dart that was attached to this dude's rifle, and he was just like some badass marksman. He's like, I can hit any shot. He's like smoking on his cigarette or whatever before he puts on. He's like, as long as you load the gun, I'll hit the mark. And then they climb up to the top of the roller coaster to get the shot because it's a clearer shot for some reason than where they were.
It's pretty slick.
But yeah, it was done really well because this thing starts catching on fire and falling apart, and they have to make their way down. As
then it dies. Movie over.
Yeah,
like it is like the second it takes its last breath, the movie is over. Basically. So like, I was fine with that though. Didn't need to dilly dally. You don't even need to see the celebrations. It's like, I get it. It's dead. Yay, humanity, I guess. So yeah, that was the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. It wasn't too plot heavy, but I liked it. It surprised me. I thought the actors were good. Characters were interesting. The script was pretty good.
Yeah.
For like being like the first one, like it's better than a lot of Godzilla movies and other big monster movies I've seen. So it's a pretty high up 50s monster movie for me. It's one of the better ones I've seen.
Yeah, I mean for the time period, it's pretty great. I gotta say.
Yeah. All right. Well, which performance would you guys hold up?
Oh yeah.
Well, I'm gonna give it to Paul.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm gonna give it to Paula Raymond, who played Lee Hunter.
She was good too.
Yeah, she was really good. There's kind of like a little love story there too, where they're sort of connecting. It wasn't like super deep, but it was there.
I'm glad it wasn't any more deep than they did it. It's just like it was just a little bit for you to just warm up to the characters a little bit more.
The movie was an hour and 15 minutes long, so they're jetting jetting along at a pretty good pace.
So yeah, I guess I would pick the old man as well.
Old man for the win.
Because his accent was weird and it kept me entertained. The aesthetic, I thought, especially that lighthouse scene looks beautiful.
Sure does.
Some of the other stuff looks pretty good. Some of it looked kind of clunky. There was even a spot where the beast just kind of like teleports a little bit to the left. It's just like it's like a screen jump or something. I don't know why they did it, but it just goes.
Oh, that reminds me. Speaking of screen jumps, okay, so there's a point in the middle of the film where Lee Hunter and Professor Nisbet are on the phone, and she's got like a newspaper or something, and he's on the phone, and he starts to say a line, and then there's just a hard cut where she kind of shifts and he kind of shifts, and he proceeds to continue his line. It's one of the most obvious cuts in the film. I thought I was like, oh, he did not complete his line from picking up the phone. He's like, hello, and then proceeds
I noticed
to say
that too. It was weird. Yeah. I remember that too. That was really weird.
It is weird. But, you know, Harryhausen does miracles, and he did in this too, I would say.
He sure did. It's really, really cool.
All right. Well, you know what time it is then.
Morphin time?
I'll tell you what time it is. Close, it's Murphin time.
Yeah, Tyrannosaurus.
The beast from 20,000 fathoms.
Rhodosaurus. Yeah.
Rhodosaurus.
You just heard it. Yeah, you got like this weird off green, like it's like a live
Rhodosaurus
costume. And then like you just sort of like or your costume's black and white, and then like your Megazord is just the Rhodosaur, but it's just like the claymation version of it. It's almost like a Lego version. It's just all blocky. They don't call you for the missions. You feel left out. You're like, oh, they beat Rita without
some
me.
delicious morsels there, Murphy.
So yeah, Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, 1953. While visiting his friend Ray Harryhausen on the set, Ray Bradbury was given a copy of the script, which was going under the working title Monster from the Sea, and was asked if he could possibly do some rewriting on it. After reading the script, he remarked about a scene in the story which featured the monster destroying a lighthouse that seemed very similar to a short story they had published in the Saturday Evening Post several years earlier, called The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. Bradbury's story was about a dinosaur that destroys a lighthouse. The next day, he received a telegram offering to buy the film rights to the story for $2,000 after the sale. The film's title was changed to The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms when Bradbury's story was
you can't say it without saying it all the time, man.
When Bradbury's story was reprinted years later, he changed its title to The Foghorn.
It's a deeply I only read the comic version. I don't know if I've actually read the Ray Brad version, but the comic version that was in that particular issue of X-Files Comics was very well drawn and written, and I loved it. So definitely, if you can track it down, I'm gonna see if I can find it somewhere. But anyway, go ahead.
The dinosaur skeleton in the museum sequence is artificial. It was bought from RKO out of nowhere, which had it in storage ever since it had been used in Bringing Up Baby 1938.
Wow.
The film's original release prints were processed in sepia tone, and some prints also had the underwater sequences tinted green. So that's pretty cool. William Woodson, who provided narration for all four of Ray Harryhausen's black and white solo efforts, gets his only screen time in this film with 2 scenes reading the news. Some of the Arctic footage showing an avalanche triggered by movements of the beast was taken from She, 1935. When Professor Tom Nisbet and Lee Hunter are looking through the various looking through the various dinosaur pictures to identify the monster, most of the drawings and paintings are the works of renowned nature artist Charles R. Knight. Knight was the most influential dinosaur artist of all time, as his paintings and drawings solidified the image of dinosaurs and other prehistoric animals in the public mind and pop culture during much of the 20th century. The dinosaurs from early classic movies like The Lost World 1925, King Kong 1933, and Fantasia 1940 were directly inspired by his art, as were most of the dinosaurs and other ancient creatures animated by Ray Harryhausen, including the film's fictional Rhedosaurus. Knight passed away on April 15th, 1953, shortly before the movie's release. In most giant What's It movies, a character who is swallowed is grabbed by the creature, lifted vertically, and slides down the throat. However, the Rhedosaurus takes the cop by the middle, holds him horizontally, then opens his mouth and lunges forward to swallow it as a dog or cat would do.
Yeah, it looked good.
And,
that's pretty cool.
The Rhedosaurus creature in this film makes a cameo appearance in The Planet of Dinosaurs, 1977. It appears briefly near the end of the film as it is killed by a larger Tyrannosaurus. Cinematography, John L. Russell, edited by Bernard W. Burton, music by David.
Just David?
David
David.
Butoff. David Butoff. Buttolph. Butoff.
Buttolph, yeah. Buttolph?
Buttolph. David Buttolph. Oh,
yeah, Buttolph sounds a little better.
Yeah, David Buttolph sounds more correct.
Yeah. And just for anyone listening, if they want to look it up, that story I mentioned was illustrated, beautifully painted by a fantasy painter called Wayne Barlow. If you ever look up his stuff, it's very cool. With a Wayne with a Y.
Film was released June 13th, 1953. Running time 80 minutes. Budget $200,000.
Really? That's a lot for that time period.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you guys want to think this movie made in the box office?
Not that much money.
$500,000? That seems a lot.
Less than 200,000.
$5 million.
Wow, that's awesome.
It's the highest-grossing film of 1953.
That was a massive success. My God,
it's good.
It's very good.
All right. Well, rewatchability.
I enjoyed it.
I probably would watch this again, not for a while, but when I'm feeling like old monstery, or someone says, "I guess watch old monster movies," this one would probably be one I'd reach for.
Yeah.
Because
the
performances are
screen.
Good.
Yeah. I agree. I'd rewatch this one.
Yeah, it's like just to look at for how beautiful it all looked. Like it's definitely worth it just for that. It was very beautiful to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Just for the
except for that shark and octopus scene.
Yeah, well, but even modern day films that do black and white generally do it as an homage or getting a sense of, like, most particularly The Lighthouse, which is was filmed here in Nova Scotia actually, and they're pretty cool. But there's something about this particular version, or maybe it's just like I watched a high res version or a 4K of it, but it was the inks, like the blacks were very inky black, like darkly black. It just was such a really cool contrast. It just looked very cool. I wish I could have seen this on a big screen. It would have been very enjoyable.
Well,
apparently there's a color version.
Oh, I don't know if I want to see that. I mean, I guess I would see it, but
color,
just why do they got to do that? Just watch the movie as it was. I don't need to see Jimmy Stewart in color in It's a Wonderful Life. Let's just watch the original.
It's funny you mentioned that about seeing this in film, because the Review Cinema here in Toronto actually had a 16 millimeter version per performance for a night.
Oh, I would have went to that for sure. Yeah. I'd happily go to that.
It almost coincided with my Toronto trip, but we just...
Oh, that would have been cool if you could have saw this in theater before.
It was literally the day after he left. I was like, we could have saw it together.
Yeah, well. So, does it hold up? For me, it does. I enjoyed it. I was, sitting. I was along for the ride.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say merely as a time capsule, as to like, this is like modern day filmmakers are watching, or film viewers are watching movies like this, and just because we've seen all of this 1,000 times plus with modern day effects and everything else, and kind of forget how actually integral stuff like this was to what came. Like without this, there wouldn't be that. So I think just merely as a time capsule for filmmaking from that time period, but also as what was a scary big monster movie back then, because this is like one of the very first. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
It holds up for me. It's one of the finest silver screen productions I've seen.
Yeah,
I will
because
admit,
historically, as someone listens to the show, usually you're the one who's not a big fan of these sort of movies. Oh,
Yeah.
pointing at Murphy.
Yeah, no, I'm generally. I mean, I do like I like them. I kind of pick them apart, I guess, and sometimes they don't hold up in the most part, but this one does. Even though I will admit, probably by the last 15 minutes of the film, I was a little like bored with it because it was
That
like,
was the worst part of it. I agree.
yeah, just like the action wasn't punching, but then again, I've been spoiled with 60 years of generational evolution in technology and
That's true.
dopamines. So
pretty significant amount of change.
yeah, but other than that little caveat, this is, as you said, perfect time capsule.
Yeah, it's cool.
Should be watched if you haven't seen it. If you watched us talk about it, well, you should watch it because we didn't cover all the details. That's what we try to do here. We just want to give you a taste.
Give you a little taste. Tasty room.
Well, let's move over to Theater 2.
Oh, baby.
Where we have,
give us the tickets.
Where things may get a little contentious here. We're all getting along so well.
Colossal
from 2016, starring Anne Hathaway, Jason Sudeikis, Austin Stoll, Tim Blake Nelson, and Dan Stevens. Who was Dan Stevens in this movie?
He was her boyfriend, the one that she left at the beginning.
Yeah,
the one that left her at the beginning and made her, and then came to get her later. That was Dan Stevens.
Yeah, right.
Did you even watch this, David? I feel like you didn't watch this to pay attention.
No, I did.
Buddy who plays Legion.
Yeah, Legion. That's what I know him from.
Yeah, that's him.
I was stoked to see Dan Stevens. I thought the cast in this
I
film
totally forgot
was
he was
great.
in this.
Yeah,
I was.
Did you
Tim
watch
Blake
the movie?
Nelson. Tim Blake Nelson shows up,
and he is super good at it. He only has a small role, but he's
good.
Everybody Jason Sudeikis. Might be his finest role ever. I mean,
I
cannot
look at him. I cannot look at him.
You're supposed to, Davin. You're supposed to.
No, I don't mean. No, I mean like the way it's written. I mean, like the way his character's.
Well, I'll tell you why you're wrong, but we'll get into that.
I know you will.
Distracting. Oh my god. Okay.
I all I can say is I think
the key is to not tell Davin that you like the movie beforehand. Because then he'll find some reason to not like it.
Hey, I watched this with Tiffany, and I was more high on it than she was.
Really?
Yeah.
Who is this this partner of yours that doesn't like these amazing movies?
Yeah, I can't look at Jason Sudeikis the same anymore. He's not the like happy-go-lucky guy that he's publicly known for to me anymore. He's not the soccer coach. He's like this creepy Oscar dude. Like I saw it and I was just like, it's not the same. His like sheen of like perfect happiness is gone. He like this is one of Jason Sudeikis' best played roles he's ever done.
It just shows how versatile of an actor he is, because he's very good in like Ted Lasso and all that stuff, but like this he also can play like a bad guy very well, and I would be curious to see him play like a proper bad guy in another film. Be curious to see that.
Yeah, it was
his
turn in the
his turn a little abrupt. And so,
I thought
so did Tiffany. It's just like he's just like, I'm nice guy, bad guy, and then in the next scene, just like, I'm a super villain. It's just like, well, that was abrupt.
No,
abrupt.
because if you know people like him, if you ever met one in your life, which you may have, I mean, obviously this is an extreme situation, but they control you in different ways, so they try to, and then they play the victim. They play the victim when you push back against whatever they're trying to do to control you. So as long as everything's going well, he's a happy, great guy. The second someone disagrees with him or things don't go the way he wants to, that's when you see the monster underneath.
Even from his early scenes, he's like manipulating her.
Oh yeah, everything from the beginning, all his behavior that he does that you see as evil later, he was doing the whole time. It was only that nobody really realized he was using it as controlling as he was until they realize, and that's when he becomes nasty.
Yeah, you don't quite
their
see
motivations. I found weak. Like the reason this whole thing happens is because like he's like smashed her diorama. Like
Oh, well, that's
no,
not
that's
the reason the whole thing happened. He wasn't
No,
old. I
that's
mean,
not
he
the-
didn't even
no,
remember
he was-
that.
Well, let's get into the plot here.
All right.
Well, no, hang on.
We're kind of stepping
Well,
over it a bit.
you know, you didn't quite see it, but I wanted to know: have you guys seen the trailer for this one?
Oh no. Let me see the trailer for this.
Did it even get a theatrical release?
Oh yeah.
You don't remember anything last night, huh?
I got really melodramatic, didn't I?
Told me that you weren't really on a vacation.
I feel like he was lying during this
That
whole
you've been looking
scene.
for a
Oh,
job
he
for a
100%
year.
was.
Your
Yes.
boyfriend didn't
He
work out.
used her
You are
drinking as a
control.
way to
I've packed
control
your things.
her
They're in the
by
bedroom.
making telling
Oh,
her
definitely.
he didn't do it.
And since you didn't have any money, you decided to move back here.
Is there anything else?
Don't remember anything.
The unprecedented nature of this
Get
phenomenon
that tingle.
shot around.
You know you're watching something that's going to change
Stephen
the course of
Hawking is the
history.
most-
You all right?
It's this nervous tick I have. I get this itch. Oh my god.
Oh, dude. The monster
Same place,
scenes were so
exact
well
same
done
time.
in this film.
But it just made a bunch of weird hand gestures.
And that was brilliant.
I'm gonna show you guys something.
It's dancing.
Is dancing like...
Holy shit.
Ow! What was that? What was that?
A helicopter.
With the pilot and everything? I feel terrible.
Give him a good show.
Keep it cool. Oh my god, these people are looking at us.
She's the monster.
I'm the robot.
So I would just like to point out the director of this film, Nacho Vigalondo, I believe is Canadian. He did a movie called Time Crimes. I highly suggest. He might not be Canadian, but I feel like he has some connection to Canada. But he did a movie that was a very prominent Canadian film called Cube many years ago, which is kind of what put him on the
that's
map.
just the Cube guy. No
Yes,
wonder
the
you-
Cube guy. And he also did what I believe to be the best episode of Guillermo del Toro's Cabinet of Curiosities on Netflix, the Graveyard Rats episode, which I thought was fantastic. So, but he's a great director. Time Crimes is one of, if not the best time travel movie I've ever seen. I've said that it didn't make the cut when you guys did your time movies, but if you ever go back to it, check that one out. It's super, super good.
Well, there's always
I don't
time.
know.
for
I
more
feel like
time
I just had
capsules.
a little bit. It was just a little bit of a different inclined roller coaster for this one for me. Whereas the last one, I was like surprised the whole time and like about how much I was enjoying it.
Mhm.
This one, it's like is more of a concept film, and I usually like concept films. Most of my favorite ones that we talk about on this are. But I think I really wanted more of the concept out of this concept film. Like they kind of introduce this interesting concept, and then it just more becomes about their relationship between those two and him being obsessive about.
Well,
her
that's
and-
what the core story is. This is just using
Yeah.
the vehicle to build control.
Yeah, and I guess I was just a little bit. I just want to see a little bit more of the other side.
Yeah, that's fair,
A
but
little bit more of
I guess that
concept.
wasn't the most important part of it, I suppose.
That's not what they were going for with this movie, and I get
No.
that. But just watching it, I was just kind of like left wanting a little.
Although I thought the effects on the creature, I don't know, I dug it all. I feel like I was happy with the explanation. I liked it. I think, there's a certain fairy tale quality to it, but it's also like, whole commentaries on alcoholism about,
Yeah.
I mean, I know the word gets thrown around a lot, but toxic masculinity, like control. His whole issue was nothing to do with that childhood thing. That's just what.
No, his wasn't. Hers was. Or
That-
what-
no.
what-
That's just what her memory came through as to what caused this to happen. But
that's what I mean. Like
his is like people that blame
her
everyone else for
leaving
their
the
problems.
town. and
Well, no,
stuff,
just, not even that. Just her
Being
being
successful.
from the town and being successful, and someone people look up to and remember, and he never really achieving anything, and blaming everyone else for his problems when he's the one who caused it all, because he's a fucking monster. But broken people is really it. And he uses it to control everyone, including his friends.
Yeah.
Which you see because he doesn't, he's all kindly and fun until they step up to him, and then he brings up their problems, and use it to embarrass them and make them look little.
He's
in
a
front of
rape
everyone
dick
else.
to Tim Blake Nelson.
Oh, 100%.
Calls him like a cokehead and all this shit.
Yeah, he's a bully. Like he's the ultimate bully in a way, but like even worse because he's the bully that pretends to be a nice person.
Yeah, there's a scene early on where he's, Anne Hathaway is kind of like leans in to kiss like the dude that gets introduced last because he's
the young handsome fella.
Yeah, the
That'd
young
be
handsome
Austin
fella,
Stowell, who I've never seen
Youngie
anything else, but he was
McHandsome
good in this.
face.
Yeah, so he he's leaning in for a kiss but doesn't quite make it, and it's all like that kind of awkward energy, and he walks in and he's like, "Oh, you ruined it," and he's freaking right out right there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's like, I guess like at first it didn't quite wasn't quite a red flag to me. I was like, wow, he's very worked up about this. But after like the series of events that followed, I was like, oh, that was the first red flag right there.
Oh yeah,
and then
buying the furniture and keeping it coming, all that.
Yeah.
But it seems so innocent and helpful at the start, right? Like that's why it's interesting when you see him keep it going, because that's
so insidious.
Exactly.
That all made sense. I guess he just went from like possessive creep to like I'll gladly murder hundreds of people really fast.
Because he wants to be.
Like he's mad at her, and he's like, "I'll murder all these people in Japan because I'm pissed off at you." I was like,
no, it wasn't. No, I look. This is where I think maybe the disconnect is. It wasn't because he was angry he did that. It's because he's showing her what he'll do if she doesn't do what he wants her to do. So it's all about control. It has nothing to do with him caring about killing those people. He doesn't care about that. But
that's what I mean.
He knows she does. So if he does that because she disobeys him, she won't disobey him anymore. That's 100% why he did it. Because he did it right in front of her to say, look, this is what happens when you don't follow what I'm telling you. You don't do what I want you to do. So it's funny that it didn't even come into a weird sexual thing. And it may have got there eventually if she stayed in this horrible cycle that she's in with him.
He just wanted her working at the bar under his boot.
Yeah, because then he can show everyone that she's not as successful as everybody thought she was, and she's not as great as everyone thought she was. And
he can smash a bottle, tell her to clean it up.
Yeah. Well, I guess do we want to walk through it a little bit, or have we?
Yeah. Sure. You do it. It's your movie. That's how we do it.
Oh, is that how we? Oh, Jesus! You should have told me that before.
No, but you don't do walkthroughs. It's just like here's how the movie started. Here's what happens in the middle. Here's the end. It's sort of give it a 3-act kind of a.
That would have been a good knowledge to have before this started. All right, 2016 Colossal. So Gloria, she's unemployed writer, struggling with alcoholism, gets thrown out of her house by her boyfriend, who is sick of her alcoholism. Even when he kicks her out, all of her friends are waiting like in the bushes to come in and party and drink more, which is funny because he kicks her out for being like partying too much and all this, hoping that maybe this will be the kick she needs to get her life together. So he returns. She goes back to her hometown and meets up with Oscar, who is a childhood friend of hers that she kind of left behind when she had moved on to become a writer and become sort of a big deal. She doesn't even remember, like, she's an alcoholic for sure. She doesn't even remember aspects of, like, she is getting updates on his life and doesn't even remember his mom died. She's at the funeral and doesn't even remember it. So, like, that's how inconsequential the town kind of had become to her, and even maybe even her alcoholism, depending on how deep that goes. So she one morning when she's out drinking with them, because Oscar owns a bar, she goes and sleeps in an empty her childhood home she's living in, which her parents, her sister and her still have, I guess. She goes to stay in and falls asleep on a bench in a park. And around the same time this happens, a giant monster appears in Seoul, Korea, that kind of leaves death and destruction in its wake. It smashed a bunch of buildings. It kind of just stands there. It looks kind of strange. No one really knows why. But eventually,
it will. The first time it sort of happens, it's because she's like carrying that inflatable mattress. And
right.
She's walking through the park, and she's doing it, just casually, no big deal.
Yes. So, but the monster.
I kind of wish it was a little scarier, maybe, because to me it looked very much like an N64 boss villain. You know what I mean?
That's kind of the point, though. Like when you see what caused this.
Yeah,
they weren't, like, it's a kid's toy, so it's supposed to not look, you know what I mean? Like, but I get what you're saying. I understand that. I thought the effects on it looked pretty good.
It grew on me, but at first I'm just like, that looks like such a bit. Like, I'm pretty sure I fought that before.
The thing about the that one scene though, when the monster's walking through Seoul, and she ultimately, it's when she's reviewing it because she starts cluing in. Right, it's her.
she's on the
she
phone at
reviews it.
one point later, and then
Yeah, she's on the phone with her boyfriend, and he freaks out, and she throws the phone and stuff like that.
and then
like,
she sees a
the
clip of the
does the same
monster
thing.
doing the same thing, and then puts two and two together, goes back and watches the other clip, and realizes when she was carrying the bag through that area. And it's always the same time of day in the same little park, kids park.
But did you guys notice when she was carrying the bag that the bag was damaging buildings around the monster? It wasn't like the monster's shoulder or limbs or elbows were crashing into buildings. It was also the buildings. Yeah, no, there was I was watching one of the buildings.
That would
and
make
like,
sense though, because the helicopter hit her in the head and she felt it, right?
Yeah, but she's carrying this object as a human, and when she's carrying it, the space of it, like
I
the
didn't notice that. That's cool.
also crashes into the buildings around it. And I was like, why does that happen? I wonder. I eventually kind of found out why through movie morsels. It was mostly an animation thing, I guess, but like it's just I was hoping, like you said, Davin, I was hoping they would explain a bit more stuff like that. They don't quite, but I did notice that, and I was like, I wonder what does that. What's causing that to happen? That's the type of, like, this movie's got me sucked in. I was sucked in at this point. I was like, what is happening? How does this work? And yeah, she's slowly figuring out she's a monster through.
So she kept being like, same thing. I was kind of sucked in, and I just kept waiting for. I'm like, I can't wait to see the next place it goes. Like, I kept expecting it to go like one step further, or maybe that's where we get the explanation or something, and it just didn't. It's just like that's the little story it wanted to tell, and that's fine. But I was just expecting the next thing the whole time, and like the next thing never showed up.
Yeah, it kept
Crazy.
Subverting your expectations,
Yeah,
by giving you deep drama revelations of alcoholism and abuse and controlling. And dude, sucks them in with the fancy monsters.
Big monsters, I know.
Gives them a big lesson about alcoholism and abuse.
That's what's great about movies like this, because I mean, its marketing's weird. They got to market a big monster movie to get people to watch it. But I love when it makes you think it's one thing, and then you realize, oh, this is like a deep examination of like when I watched the Babadook, I was like, this is just some weird English horror movie. And then it's like, oh, this is actually a deep movie about grief, like massive grief, and like the monster that it makes, and that we all just have to learn to live with it. And it was just such a fucking amazing movie. And then like I love movies like that, and this one was one for me. I don't know why it came on my radar, but I just watched it, and I was like, I think I downloaded it or something, and I watched it, and I bought it. I have it on Blu-ray, so I made up for that. I said, oh man, like this is a super good movie about like the concept of what it is, like about dealing with alcoholism and the way toxic people try to control you. So yeah, she
You're not wrong, though. It was like I was coming in thinking a monster movie, and I was a little bit disappointed in that. But if I had come in and be like, hey, this is a movie about alcoholism, and it surprised me with a monster movie, I would have been overjoyed. So it's like,
but Hollywood doesn't normally do that way. They have to show you the big thing and then sneak you in.
But wouldn't it the other way have been better?
It's like it would have, but it would probably would. I doubt this did very. I don't think this did very well anyway. But it would have been. But it's like the pill you give your cat. Like it's the medicine is in between the flashy thing, like when you put it in a pill pocket. So she gets to know Oscar. Oscar is kind of like, she doesn't have any furniture, and Oscar keeps bringing her furniture. And even like in a TV, you shouldn't have one. In like a futon couch, and there's like a running gag where she keeps trying to sleep on this inflatable mattress, which deflates, and her neck's always really sore and stuff.
Against the wall, crushing her boob. She's like, just like rubbing her boob for a minute.
So, not to go into too deep, and actually do want people to go watch it. Basically, it becomes more and more apparent that, she tells the group about her discovery, that she is the monster in Seoul. And they even
has to prove it, obviously, because
they get an old guy, an old Korean guy at a store to write out a message for her to write out. So she writes it out in the sand.
So the point where she's proving to the group, this is actually Davin's favorite.
Oh, perfect.
Scene.
Go for it.
So we'll just. So yeah, she's walking. So once she walks into the park, like the specific zone,
at a specific time of day.
This was like the peak enjoyment of the movie for me. It built and built and built up to this point, and then it kind of just trickled off a bit for me.
Nah, I super dug it all the way through. It even looks like a video game, like the way it's here.
All right, it's
Yeah.
back. You see it? Yeah, I got it.
Is it there?
The giant monster? Yeah.
Yeah. Sudeikis so good in this.
Holy shit, Gloria, you gotta see this.
What is he doing?
It's dancing.
Is dancing like...
Holy shit.
It stopped.
Hi, assholes! Mwah! I'm blowing you kisses.
Whoa. What the?
Okay, how?
Wait, this isn't happening. No, this is not happening. This is one of those practical joke apps. This is a joke.
But you know,
it's a
I still
joke.
feel like dancing, so, can you guess which film this is from, huh?
What the fuck is going on?
Do you want to make any requests? This does not last that long.
It's a joke.
What?
What the?
Ow.
They're shooting at you. Missiles.
Shooting you.
They're shooting at me? Are you
They're
serious?
shooting at me?
Where?
Yeah, that was my favorite part of the movie.
It's pretty great.
So it reminds me of kind of like where I wanted them to add with the movie there. I would have liked to have seen the reaction of the people on the street in Seoul when it starts blowing, the monsters like blowing kisses and stuff. They give you a tiny little snippet of like
Well, you hear news reports and people talking about how ridiculous this
but
thing
like
is.
a little bit more of like that, I think I would have found interesting and funny.
I think when they saved really being in the streets of Seoul for the end was more impactful, you know.
Maybe
The getting the trickle of the news feed. So this was the other thing about this movie that I really liked, is that it really highlighted the effects of a news cycle and how a lot of people sort of get over things. Like the first day is like big shock, monster, changing world, and then it becomes a morning 8:05 show and everybody starts cheering.
Well,
and
it kind of
stuff
makes
like
you
that.
wonder because everyone, like, people start dying and then they're still around. You know, like,
They're
why are
still
people
around
still
and they're
there?
still-
Like, why are they still there?
They're still showing up, and then there's the line where she's in the cafe and she's talking to Jason Sudeikis and she's like, yeah, everybody's like gathered together now, but then they're just gonna realize that it's just in Korea, and then they're just gonna stop caring eventually, and everyone's gonna go back to business as usual, which it does. And it starts becoming like commodified and stuff, and like
the opposite. If people don't leave Seoul, people start going to Seoul because they
to
want
go
to see the monster.
Because it starts becoming a tourist attraction, and they start like setting up viewing stations and stuff because
the
you know,
population of Seoul goes up due to the monster attack. That's our world.
And that all starts happening after, as you said, Andre, when she gets the note from the Korean restaurant and proceeds to like boom.
Right, and then she writes a message in the dirt saying, "This is all a mistake. I'm sorry. This won't happen again."
Which really cool. I love that.
Yeah, like she writes out, and then everybody's like, "Oh, the monster's not that bad." It's just, you know, they understand, and then basically it gets into, we start realizing that Oscar has some deep problems. That his wife had left him, and anytime he's a hoarder, and essentially, and anytime anyone tries to stand up to him or disagree with him, he starts getting angrier and starts bullying them by bringing up secrets and stuff that they probably told him in confidence. He keeps buying her more furniture, but when she eventually tries to stand up to him is when he gets really mean and brutal. And there's even actually one of my favorite scenes, which I didn't mention as my favorite, but I will be coming up here, is when her boyfriend comes to try to reconnect with her, and he goes to the bar she works at where she's working for him. And is this your favorite scene? Is this your favorite scene?
This is my favorite scene.
It's a great scene. I'm really glad you could pick this one.
What would you say would be the most irresponsible thing you could do in this bar?
I was sucked in.
Yeah, it's really, he's so good in this.
Imagine I were to stand up right here and show you my ass. That'd be pretty rude. And yet, it's not the first time something like that's happening.
Dan Stevens looks a lot different here.
Not
I see
early,
why
of
I
course.
didn't recognize it was him. It still doesn't
It has
look like
happened.
him to me.
Right, Joe?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I get some more coffee, please?
1 sec.
Yeah, he's pretty mean to Joe too.
Yeah, I never gets Joe's coffee.
I could take a piss over there in that corner booth. Break one of those windows. You and me, we could get in a big old fist fight right here in front of everyone.
It's really showing you the Rocky
Those would all
mentality.
be irresponsible things to do. But none of them are the most irresponsible thing. One sec, Joe. I'll be right with you, okay?
So I know I can't.
Oh,
share the
there's
whole
more.
thing.
Oh,
There's so
man.
much more, but I can't share the whole thing because
Fair
copyrights and all that stuff. So we
It's really
give maybe
good.
like a minute.
He basically
But
goes,
that-
takes out a massive firecracker that he's been holding on to since he was a kid and lights it off in the restaurant. And this like just things are on fire. All this people run out, and then he just like basically says, you know, this is the control, because he says to her ex-boyfriend, he says, even doing all that in front of you, because she says he's come to make her go back with him. He says, even doing all of that in front of all these people in front of you, she's still going to stay here. Because before that, he established that. So we've established earlier that when he steps into the park at the same time, he appears as the giant robot. And he has said to her that if she does, like once she started standing up to him and saying like, you're being controlling and weird, he says, well, I'm going to go into that town and kill all these people. If you like, I will go there at that time period and kill as many people as possible. If you don't do what I say. So that at this point, she's aware of that. And he said, like, he blows up his own bar and then says, it gets her to get him a beer in front of him, all the things, like she's working there and he's, showing his control over her as his employee. And then he says, even after all this, she's still not going to go with you. She's going to stay here. And like, that was to show how much control he had over her. So
And
much
she does
so.
stay.
Yes, but then she tries to stand up. She goes home after all that happens. And then my favorite scene comes up.
Is that when they fight?
Not quite. It's getting there.
I'm sorry about that. Didn't mean to scare you.
How did you even get in here?
Your parents gave my parents a copy years ago.
Okay.
Why?
Leave the keys and get out.
Come on, sit down. Take it easy.
Probably to look in on it because it was
Get out.
empty.
Get out, or
Nobody's
I'll
living
call
there.
the cops.
Go ahead.
There's no authorities in this town. This town's pretty like.
Well, who's going to believe her?
Stalkerish.
Who's going to believe her, right?
Came here because of what your boyfriend said.
Ex-boyfriend.
Well, if they know him and what a monster he apparently is and is in front of
they
people
don't.
all the time, maybe they would.
Only to his friends. That's
Well,
how
you might
these
be
people
thinking
would work. They don't do it in front of authorities.
I'm just here to make sure you don't call him. So if you want to, please go ahead. Get some sleep. I'll be right here.
It's so crazy.
You've lost your mind. You know that, right?
Oh, damn! You see him? It goes right on his face, and he says, he says maybe, but let's make sure you don't lose yours. And it's super good. It's okay. It's all good. But basically, this results in her finally standing up to him, and they get in a big fight. He says he's going to go to the park because she's going to leave. She decides she's going to leave. She's had enough. He starts go. She tries to. He said he's going to the park to go fuck everything up. She tries to stop, and they get in a big fight, which is a pretty intense fight.
It's a good fight.
But eventually, the thing is, earlier after he did something horrible as the robot, he played nice again. This is sort of like anybody that knows anybody, or if you've been in an abusive relationship. I mean, I haven't, but I know enough. The people that hurt you always apologize and love bomb you the next day and say, I'm so sorry, I was drunk, whatever. And then like until whatever sets them off again sets them off. And it's just a cycle that goes around and around. And he has one of those moments where he cries and he's so sorry and he was out of his head and he didn't realize, and his life's been messed up since his wife left. But then the second someone stands up to him, it happens again. So this is even it, where he says, I'm sick playing nice guy to you, and he really punches her, like really punched her in the face, drops her,
And then hits her in the gut and just
and then punched her in the gut so she can't get up. The wind's knocked out of her. And then in front of her, well, at the time period where she can't do anything about it, he walks into the park and starts stepping on Bill. Like, the beautiful part of this scene is she's there writhing in agony trying to reach him but can't get up. He's standing there and just stepping on nothing as what we see. But they overlay the sound of all the carnage that's happening in Seoul right now. All the people dying, the screaming, the damage. And you can see the pain reflecting on her face as what he does. And he even like says to her, I'll do this again tomorrow if you're still not here. And then she has, I think at some point in this, if not before this, she has a revelation or a dream where she remembers how all this happened.
No, basically the revelation of how it all happened is when she's sitting at the couch with him, and she's just sort of
Right,
like
right.
she's
She's
kind of at
scratching
this
her head.
defeative state. She's scratching her head, and then she remembers that as kids he goes hopping over the fence like he's being a valiant hero. She
The wind
follows him.
blew. Yeah,
The
they had
wind blew her
dioramas for school.
diorama. She had a Seal Korea diorama. The wind blew it away. The kid's going to chase after it. You thinks he's gonna go, save it, all this stuff. And she's out there, and there's like a
Well,
storm brewing over her head, and a
So-
lightning bolt slowly coming down while this kid's just smashing the diorama.
like
And
her
they both
diorama
get,
was really well done. His wasn't.
yeah,
And
yeah, his wasn't.
it was like toys and shit, and hers was like a real nice view of Seoul. And they're
Yeah.
walking it, and she doesn't remember any of this because of this event, I guess. And that's also the tick she has with scratching her head is because of
Yeah.
this.
Because of the
So
lightning strike.
yeah, she sees him smashing her diorama, realizing that he was even a jealous, misplaced rage even at that age as a kid.
Yeah.
Because he smashed her diorama instead of picking it and giving back to her, and probably would say it just got smashed when it blew away, because he was jealous of what she had done. So then
Well,
the
yeah.
lightning comes in and hits both of them in the heads, and you see the blood come down where the lightning strikes him, and also over the picture of Soul and the robot and the monster figures that he had in his diorama, or that were in their backpacks. So like this is the connection. Whatever magic happened when this event happened,
The magic lightning.
tied them
Yeah.
to these creatures that will now appear at this time, because it happened right in the park. Because they mentioned that wasn't a park before; it was like some bushes or an area where it happened.
Yeah,
So,
so when this part was happening, I was like, okay, so I guess we're gonna get, and it's just lightning, and I'm like, oh,
That's
okay.
enough.
I guess it's enough. I was
I
hoping for
wanted
something
more.
maybe a
It's a
little
concept film, more concept.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
but that being
what
said,
what answer would make you happy? Like
I
what
don't
what could
know.
they tell you that would satisfy you? It was aliens.
just like there was no, even just it was some sort of like experiment, or there was a gateway or something like that, like
There
something
was
that
the lightning. That was the gateway. It came through
I
that.
guess I've never considered lightning as a gateway.
Well, maybe it came out of the gateway. I don't know. You can read into whatever way you want. It's merely a device to explain how we got to this fantastical point.
But like they could have connected that lightning to like the that like form that cloud that forms before her monster sort of.
I
Well,
think
that's-
I think it was implied that that's what it was, because
Yeah,
the
that's-
monsters always appear in a cloud of lightning, like a little cloud
Yeah.
of lightning and stuff. So I think that is the connection too. I think that's very much a conscious choice.
Yeah, it's just sort of like a MacGuffin in the storyline, but it's passable for sure. It's not something I weigh heavily on, but yeah,
Not the word.
she has this realization memory, and then she snaps back on the couch, and she's like, "Oh, you weren't doing this out of some sort of manifested love for me or anything like that. You were just a self-loathing little shit
Yeah.
the whole time." And then
It's not even about love; it's just about controlling her.
yeah, and then he sort of snaps, and she sort of like eyeballs him, and then he goes for it because he knows what he's gonna do. And then you see that whole scene where he stomps on the dirt, and that's the point where she goes back to her apartment and like wraps herself up, because as she's like walking into her apartment,
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about that.
her little like Pepe Silva wall was like
Nice
the marker flips upside down as she walks by it and glances at it, and she wraps herself up, and then she unwraps herself and is like looks at kind of like she has a realization, and then
Yeah, and this
she
is
just
where we
sort
get
of-
the final act, how this resolved. So
Yeah.
her boyfriend said to B, if you want to leave, come be there in the morning. She doesn't go there. She goes to the airport, gets a ticket. We don't know where she's going at first. She arrives in Seoul, Korea, and then walks to the place where the monster appears, and waits for the robot to appear. So the robot does, because she wasn't there. He comes by the house in the morning, sees through the window she's not there. He goes to the park to go do more damage to prove to her that he's going to keep doing this unless she does what he tells him. But as he appears as the robot and steps into the park, she steps into the area as well from the other side. And then he starts hearing the huge noises of footsteps and looks up over the tree line and realizes that it works both ways. So she appears to him as the giant monster. And based on where he is in relation to her, when she stands on, she can tell where he would be on the ground. Reaches down and picks him up and holds him in his grasp, and he cries and begs. She can't hear him, of course, but he tries to run. She sees the robot turn to run and realizes the man just to space out and grab him, and she can see she grabbed him because the robot lifts in the air, and then she holds him, and he's crying and begging for his life and being, and then obviously just going into anger, and she throws him like into the like as the monster just chucks him into the horizon, which would kill him, and the robot also disappears in the horizon. And then she has
that was a bit inexplicable too, though. Like, where did she get this theory? What showed her that they would work on
the
other
wall
side,
when
too?
she walked by, she had this wall of all the information she learned about what was happening, and there's the picture of Korea or whatever, and then it turned upside down, and that when she walked by the wall and hit the thing, so it knocked the picture up, and that made her realize it might work both ways. Yes,
yeah.
So then
she was banking a lot on that working, though.
Well, what else would she have?
Yeah.
So and it's also, it's like anyone that feels powerless in those situations finding the power in the way that they can finally get free of it. So and then she goes into a bar and is offered a drink, and then there's just a moment which she goes like, huh, because she still has to deal with the alcoholism.
Yeah.
And then you don't know what her choice is if she drinks or not, but it's up to you to decide on this. And then it
all right, so my headcanon is she decides to live in Seoul, Korea, and have a lesbian relationship with the bartender.
I mean, that's very possible. I don't know if she likes girls, but
I feel like she
does after Dan Stevens.
It's funny because like Stevens isn't necessarily a bad guy, but there's also little elements of him that are kind of controlling as well. So like
maybe similar him and the other guy.
Yeah, a little bit. His is less avert. He's not angry or violent, but it's just a little commentary on the way people try to control each other and stuff like that. So it's I love this movie so much. I gave it 5 stars in Letterboxd. It's great. Wow. It's great.
So one thing I had a little like question mark about is when she's the monster walking at the park, how is she not just stomping on like suburban homes towards him? Like
they just wanted a neat ending.
She reaches down. Yeah, she reaches down.
Well, no, but like even before she reaches down, she's like, there's a lot of stomping, which he doesn't see it until the monster like head appears over the tree line. So like it leads me to believe like she had to walk a couple, I would say meters at least. To
oh, you mean in her town?
In her town, right?
Murder
I wonder that too, but maybe it's the placement. She knew where it was. It could. I mean,
one will hope it was like this was just all woods, and that's whatever.
That's what
she came in from the woods side.
That's what it looked like when he picked her up and threw her. Just looked like all woods from where they were. So I'm guessing they hoped that you would notice that too.
So she just killed raccoons and trees by the dozen
in a park.
Yeah, and unfortunately, but think about the human life that is saved because she got rid of Oscar.
Perhaps. Well, which performance would you hold up? Now, I gotta say, when I first saw who was starring in this movie, I knew it was going to have a little extra work to do for me because I'm not really a big Anne Hathaway or Jason Sudeikis fan. Like, their stuff kind of, I don't know. So.
Really? I think they're both
like for them being the two leads, I probably would have done better for me if it like was somebody I like really liked as opposed to two people who are just kind of meh. Tim Blake Nelson, I think is great in this, and I like him a lot. Like
he's very good in this.
They could have gone a little further. Not that they were bad. Anne Hathaway and Sudeikis definitely aren't bad in this. In fact, they're good in this. But again, they're just like, I don't know, something about those two just kind of doesn't resonate with me often.
So is Tim Blake Nelson's your pick?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it to Anne Hathaway. I think this is one of my favorite Anne Hathaway.
She's very good in it. She's very good.
Along with Jason Sudeikis, but Anne Hathaway gets it for me. But yeah, both just one of their best performances from both of them in this.
Since you picked her, I'll pick Jason Sudeikis because his role. Like I said, this movie actually turns you on how good and versatile of an actor he really is. Because he is terrifying in this, but it's not even just like it's easy to play just a psychopath or a fucking a monster of some kind, but to do it the way he did it, to be a very, in my opinion anyway, literal depiction, realistic depiction of what people that do this sort of thing are this type of person in real life, this kind of controlling, blame everybody else for their problems kind of guy is. He does it so well. He plays it so well, which is good because comedy and horror are usually not that far apart when it comes to depictions or how good actors are in them. And he proves it. I'd like to see him do something else like this. Maybe someday we'll get it.
All right. The setting and aesthetic. I mean, it looked fine. It looked a little video gamey, but I guess you're telling me that was kind of the point. I guess for some reason.
I don't know what's the point. I just
Yeah, I don't know if it was the point.
I
I don't know
think
what you quite mean by video gamey. I honestly thought
I
the
think he
effects
didn't
in
like
this
the
film
design
were
of the monster. Is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Maybe
the
that's what
design
you
of the
meant.
monsters. It didn't like. I don't know. It just looked a little cheesy and a little video gamey. I don't know.
But it was like because it was a representation of a children's toy.
Yeah,
That's why I
it.
think it's
I get
like.
it.
But I know what you're saying. I just think it. I can forgive it. I think it's cool that it looked different.
It's
It
fine.
looks different from most monsters, which is also kind of cool.
Yeah, it's just like this kind of skinny monster with a pot belly.
Yeah, and the big tall head.
Yeah.
I don't know. I dug it. I really dug it.
Yeah, it's fine.
Gremlin and a robot, you know.
Yeah, the robot looked pretty cool.
Yeah, the robot looked fine. All right. Well, I am a little peckish.
Colossal 2016, as big of a film as it is not very big of a dish and morsels, so it's gonna be quick.
Oh, really?
Anne Hathaway
that's unfortunate.
was in the second trimester of her pregnancy while filming this movie.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, she'd even. I'm more impressed.
Anne
She
Hathaway
wore a
was
lot
the
of
first.
jackets and stuff.
Yeah, there was a lot of thick jackets at certain points.
It's the Seinfeld season, 5 or 6 of movies.
Yeah.
When Julie Louis-Dreyfus was pregnant, she was always wearing big bags and big jackets and had like big bags and stuff.
Anne Hathaway was the first actress to sign on at a time when the project had no financial backing. She heard about the script after finding herself in a little bit of an artistic no man's land for inspiration. Director Jonathan Demme?
Yeah, the director of Silence of the Lambs. I love that guy. Also, a movie called Targets. Check that out if you haven't seen it. Oh no, he didn't direct that. Sorry, anyway. Go ahead.
Demme screened her for a copy of A Field in England in 2013, after which Hathaway decided that it represented exactly the type of movie she wanted to make. After asking her representation to see a similar script that she could join, she was sent the Colossal script. Hathaway found herself attracted to the genre-hopping nature of the script, later comparing it to Being John Malkovich from 1999, one of her favorite
also a great movie. A big fan of that movie too.
No motion captured footage was used for the creation of the monsters. Rather, footage of Anne Hathaway acting out her parts was given to the CG team, who used this as reference points. The CG artists, as opposed to director Nacho Vigalondo, were responsible for the look of the monster itself. Vigalondo stated that this was partly due to his lack of artistic skill and partly due to him wanting them to feel like characters that felt like a part of the genre we're playing with. When the monsters writes, "I'm sorry, it was a mistake, it won't happen again," in Korean, it's a verbatim quote from the comment King Juan Carlos de Bourbon made after being injured while taking part in an elephant hunt in Botswana. The cinematography, Eric Kress, edited by Ben Badhoen and Luke Doolan. Music by Bear McCreary, which is pretty friggin' awesome.
That's really awesome.
And release date September 9th, 2016 at the Toronto International Film Festival.
Oh,
Running
cool.
time.
I don't remember the music
minutes.
much from the movie though.
No, there's some epic stuff. A lot of it is like scores when it's like resting over like the damage when you see the monsters. That's what I remember the most.
The budget is $15 million with a box office of $4.5 million.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah, a bit of a loss, and
but also
5,000 less.
Also, an important reminder, folks, that budgets box offices don't necessarily mean movies are good.
Yeah.
Just watch what interests you, man.
I bet you this film would have done way better if it had better marketing.
Yeah, I doubt it was marketed properly.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I never heard of it until you're like, "Let's watch this film," and I'm like, "Okay."
Now another crazy Andrè film.
Rewatchability. Yeah, I don't know. This isn't high on the rewatches for me.
Oh, I would happily rewatch.
I don't really. I'm not big on the two leads.
I'm actually thinking about showing it at the movie night I host now that I've rewatched it again and really enjoyed it. I think it would be something.
It would be a good movie to show to people. Like
yeah, I think so too.
Like that.
No, 100%. Very rewatchable for me.
Yeah, high rewatchability for me. I was enjoying like scanning through it again while looking for clips for this episode.
It wasn't high on the rewatch for me, but it does hold up in my opinion. It's not.
Yeah, we got him. We got him. We
got
won.
him.
Yeah,
We got
I don't
him.
want to hurt you too bad, Andre, but
You wouldn't hurt me, dude. I know. I've you know. I think you and I have been around the
It's
block
kinda like
enough for
meh.
me to know what to expect from you.
It's kind of, I don't know. It's a high meh.
High
It's
meh.
a high meh.
Yeah.
C plus average for Davin for this one.
It's a high min for Davin.
It's a high min for Davin. We didn't quite break him, but he'll take it.
Scandalous.
Beautiful. I love it. We're a jaunty crew over here at the Hold Up Podcast.
Yeah. All
All right.
What
Well,
about you, Murphy? Does it hold
Oh
up for
yeah,
you?
absolutely. 100% holds up for me. This is one of the freshest films I've watched in quite some time. The
Oh, that
acting
makes me
was
happy to hear.
on point and had me thoroughly enthralled for pretty much the beginning until the end. I
thought the ending was so satisfying too. I don't know.
Yeah, I was satisfied with it. Even when she's like straight up just like hucks him, I was just like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's just like because he's like, oh, let me go, and then he's like, let me go, you bitch, and just she.
Yeah, I was
toss
glad
him.
she chucked him.
Oh yeah, I was like,
you better not set him down.
Yeah, that guy's not getting a redemption arc.
She treated him like Captain America's shield.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
All right, let's move over to Theater 3.
Theater 3.
Godzilla -1 from 2023, starring Manami Hamabi, Ryanosuke Kamiki, and Munetaka Aoki, directed by Takashi Yamazaki.
Good with the names, buddy. I'm impressed.
Opening thoughts here. Thanks.
Loved it.
I'm pretty good with names. Murphy's the guy who on this show who's not the greatest.
This movie brought Godzilla back to. I'm surprised you didn't pick the initial Godzilla movie. You went even further back, but
I went further back.
Yeah, which is fine. But this movie brings Godzilla back to what he used to be and what I think he works best as, which is as an analog for something else instead of just being a big monster. He kind of represents, nuclear war or in this case, guilt. Survivor's guilt. It's trauma of generational trauma, basically of the war.
Assimilation back into society after seeing something like war and stuff like that.
Yes. And obviously it's a very fantastical version of it, but obviously there's a lot of baggage that I'm guessing Japan still carries for Pearl Harbor and for its play in World War II. But even kind of a bold choice for me to pick a character that was a kamikaze pilot that didn't get to finish didn't get to do his mission, who has guilt from that. It was a bold one, but I really dug it. I really dug this movie.
People are like, "Why are you not dead?"
Yeah,
like he was like, "Oh, well, my engine messed up and I couldn't run into the enemy, so I landed." And they're like, "What? You landed?" Like,
yeah,
you have no honor.
Yeah, what? I don't know. Like all the cards on the table. I think most Godzilla movies for me aren't that great.
Well, they're mostly just big guys in rubber suits beating each other up.
Yeah, right? So I didn't have a lot of nostalgia for Godzilla. It's also why I went for the Beast of 20,000 Fathoms. I'm like, let's see what a Godzilla thing that's not Godzilla is like.
I didn't either. But I like Godzilla movies. They're fun, but I don't hold it in the highest of regards. They're confectionery fun.
I was coming in a little fresher than that, I guess, than not having. I wasn't weighted down by any expectations of greatness or anything like that. I was just like, so I did enjoy this movie for all the reasons you said, and it looks cool, and the characters are good. Though I think it's because most Godzilla movies aren't good that. I feel like it's getting a little bit more praise than maybe it deserves. I don't think people are acting like it's the greatest movie ever. I'm like, it might be the greatest Godzilla movie ever, but it's still just a really good movie. But
I kind of agree with Davin. I do
that are going on to it. It's
I do really like it. I just don't know if it deserves to be as heralded as it. No, it's pretty great. I mean, it's also you have to remember it's a different culture's movie.
Yeah,
this wasn't made for American audiences. We watched it, enjoyed it, but it's a Japanese movie.
True. Fair enough. It is good, very good.
But a movie to me, a Korean movie like Parasite is like one of my favorite movies, and that was very much another country's movie, but spoke on a lot of other levels. This one, I know
that
really
other
enjoyed
horror one too from Korea, I think it was. You know what I'm talking about?
There's a lot of horror movies from Korea.
Yeah.
Have to be a little more specific.
Well, it's like it has a monster, like a kind of a black goopy monster kind of thing.
Oh, Host.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one.
Yeah, that was done by the same guy that did Parasite. So
that's a good movie too.
that's a really good giant monster movie. I considered that one when we were talking about this.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
I might like that one better than this actually.
I probably did too, actually, but I still really, really did like this movie.
I did too, and I found the lead actor compelling.
Yeah, he did a good job. Really good job.
It's just like it was just a little bit death by overpraise, maybe. Not
maybe. Well, it's like the hype. You have to,
it's a hype.
A lot
hype
of people,
machine was high for this one.
It was very high.
Yeah.
What do you think, Murph? Murph, baby.
I mean, I think 8 times.
Wow. Insanity Pepper saw it 8 times in theaters.
Wow, I saw it once in theaters.
Even without Godzilla, this was a magnificent post-war drama. Yes,
he's right. He's right.
I agree.
That's what I mean. Godzilla is more like this story is more post-war drama than it is about.
And I enjoyed it more on those levels.
Yeah, that's what I think the strength of it is.
Yeah, I agree. The scene where Kochi admits to Noriko what he did in the war was Academy level. Yeah, that was good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Murphy?
Okay, let's see if I can actually say a word before getting off this time. Yes, the reason I picked this film is because this is hands down the greatest Godzilla film on Earth. Hands down. I've watched almost all of the Godzilla films except for maybe a couple of more modern ones.
Have you seen the Matthew Broderick one though?
Yes, absolutely. I have seen the Matthew Broderick one, and I thought that was one of the greatest Godzilla films on Earth in the year 2000.
I had that on VHS.
We could be heroes. Just
that album on repeat so much.
They've got a cartoon series.
Good soundtrack.
Anyway, so yeah, I got to see this film in theaters back around Christmas with Mike Henry. Our yearly Christmas tradition is to catch a movie together.
Oh, that's nice.
And this was playing in theaters, and we went and saw it, and we were both just on the edge of our seats from beginning to end. He's a big plane enthusiast, so he was super into the opening of the film, how it opens up with Kochi just like flying his broken bomber back to the island. Yeah, and the ending too, and like the whole the plane that he uses too, the back propelled plane, which I'll get into some of the details of that in movie morsels. But yeah, that's like a very rare plane that's very rarely seen. So he was super stoked to see stuff like that. And I was enjoying that part of it. The whole story of how this guy, as he said, is a failed kamikaze pilot, and he proceeds to fail his way to success at one scenario after another from all these opening in the film, and it's just one of the best.
He was Michael Burnham's great grandfather.
And yeah, no, he's just this film was so beautifully done, and one of the most terrifying depictions of Godzilla I had ever witnessed, which we'll get into in some of their opening scenes.
Oh yeah, no, it was cool, super cool. Godzilla was super cool in this.
But before I really crack into it, I just want to know if you guys have ever seen the trailer for this film.
I've never seen any trailer for any movie ever, so let's do it.
Yeah,
they played these before movies, you say?
From time to time.
Oh.
I like showing trailers.
Godzilla's a little bit more like the T-Rex from Jurassic Park in this movie, where he pays attention to individuals. Godzilla in the old movies is just like people are beneath him, and he just stomps on things.
He's only like the T-Rex in Jurassic Park if he's completely silent and sneaks up on people when it's important for the plot.
I just mean as far as he chases individuals.
God, it's so terrifying.
He looks so good in this too.
He does look great.
So good. Like, the effects in this film are mind-blowingly well done. It's a reason they won an Academy Award.
fun point about this movie is it doesn't have a North American release on Blu-ray or anything, because they have a deal with that they wouldn't do it because of the legendary Godzilla movies, the Godzilla vs. Kongs and those ones, which are fun, but nowhere near as good
stop
as this.
making crappy movies with our character.
No, they made a deal. They know what they're doing. They can make good Godzilla movies in their own country and let us have toy commercials that are fun, but nowhere near as good as this.
What's the deeper allegory of Godzilla versus King Kong? It's like post-war.
It's actually a very nuanced look at erectile dysfunction. You just have to get in.
I can see it. Yeah.
It's very. You just got to read between the lines. The monkey represents Cialis. You see, it's a whole thing. No, great choice, Murphy. Great choice. Love this movie.
Yeah. No, I mean, when I saw it in theaters, I was like, okay, if we're doing giant monsters, this is gonna be the one, because I wanted to watch it again, and I was kind of hoping to catch the -1 color edition of this film.
I would have liked to see
watch
that.
Yeah.
I was
Apparently
thinking that because I hadn't seen it yet, and that version came out in theaters. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll catch it now in black and white, and maybe
There's a couple of movies I assume are going to get a Criterion release that are going to have that version on it. That one's one of them, and I've been waiting for years. Apparently, one of my favorite recent movies was Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley, and apparently there's a black and white cut of that he is holding on to, that he has said in interviews is for the Criterion release. So I'm expecting that to come out on Criterion eventually too.
Yeah, no. So I want to see the version of this without color.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, no. Seeing this film in theaters though was just such a fun experience.
You can just hit that setting on your screen, can't you? Like you can just make any TV.
It doesn't like you. Yeah, but it doesn't do it. It's not good. Like you have to mix. I mean, Murphy knows more about film editing than I do. I do some, but not to the level he does. So like you have to do it with the black and white in mind to make it good. You can't just I guess you could just throw a filter over it, but I don't know.
So I mean, you can literally just like desaturate all the color and export it. But I'm sure when they were color correcting the film, they had a monochrome sort of scale in mind, but the shots, I believe the director, what's his name, Takashi
Yamazaki.
Takashi Yamazaki. I believe his when he was making this film, he thought he put his whole soul in this film, and he thought about every shot with immense detail. So every shot could be portrayed in monochrome and still look like vastly beautiful. And I think even more so because it would really blend the seams of the special effects of the monsters and everything in between. So yeah, this film is just one of the most jaw-dropping presentations of Godzilla, because it really puts you in the pilot seat, so to speak.
Nice shirt, by the way. I just noticed, Murphy.
Yes, thank you. The pilot seat of Koichi Sakishima.
Let me do the names. Just text it to me.
No, I'm actually much more enjoying watching him do it. Can we just have it?
All right. We can do a whole supercut of Murphy trying to pronounce names on this show.
That actually would be really funny.
Well, maybe I'll put that together.
Koichi Shikishima, who's portrayed by or acted by
No, keep going. We got
Ryunsuke Kamiki. Anyway, that actor, he acts his ass off.
Good old Ryunsuke Kamiki.
Ryunsuke Kamiki.
Definitely a real Japanese name.
He acts his ass off in this film. He really is a heart and soul in this. His whole where he lands the island and he starts interacting with the engineers and stuff, and they're all completely disrespecting him because he's not out there sacrificing his life for the Empire. They kind of like look down on him, and he's waiting for his plane to get fixed. Ultimately, it becomes nighttime and things start getting wacky. And Andrè, you said this was your favorite scene in the film.
Was
straight up the opening.
Also, one of the coolest depictions of how terrifying this really would be. Like something about the dark, something about the surprise. It's just so good.
Yeah.
But they're used to shit like this because it's wartime. They're like, okay, here's another crisis that could kill us.
They're all waiting for a bomber, right? They're looking for the American.
Put the light over there.
Is that crack in the middle for copyright reasons?
Yep.
Cool. I hope it works.
Me too.
They look like that. Just it. So good.
Just like the beast from 20,000 Fathoms, though, the monster looks the best in the dark. A bit silly.
He also looks like half formed in this shot too. Wrong.
To the trenches. They're like, you're safe in there.
Yeah. So yeah, they were ultimately not safe because Godzilla wreaks havoc and starts tearing up the island and crushing people and stuff like that. And even there's a scene where he like bites them in half. He doesn't eat them; he just like bites them in half.
Yeah, it's not really about being. It's just about rage. It's almost like about like there's no. It's like it's hungry. It actually just causes destruction to anything that's in its wake. It really is a force of nature. It's like a tornado. It doesn't care. Whatever's in its way, it just fucks up.
That's an interesting thing. Interesting thing. Korean and Chinese descendants, as I am, Insanity Pepper says, have praised the film for somehow making Imperial Japanese veterans sympathetic characters, which is a shocking thing for us historically. Well, you know, there's the whole thing about them taking comfort women wherever they go, and yeah, there's a lot of nastiness there. So
yeah, but like most people in war, there are a lot of people that were forced. Not, I guess, they got caught up in it or were forced to do it that might not necessarily.
There's a tapestry of violence and horrors connected to war that will take forever to divulge and correct.
Yes. No, it's something we're never going to get over as a group.
Yeah. So yeah, Koichi basically somehow manages to survive this attack of a giant monster and makes his way back to the homeland of Japan, where he, goes back to his hometown to find it's completely demolished. His family has been bombed to death because Japan is coming off of an atomic attack. That's why this film is essentially called -1. It's taken Japan from 0 to -1 now that Godzilla is coming through the streets and wreaking havoc.
I thought that was great too. They're already at 0 because of the war, and they're like, it's just like now -1. Yeah.
Koichi gets a lot of shit from his neighbor. I believe her name was Sumiko.
Noriko, wasn't it?
Noriko is the girl that he gets
girl,
connected to. Sumiko was the neighbor that gives him shit for, one, not dying in a kamikaze, and two, basically
what a horrible thing to tell
coming home to a dead family.
Yeah, coming home to a dead family.
And then be told you should have killed yourself to blow up someone in a stupid war that you had nothing to do with. So dumb.
Yeah.
It's like you might as
maybe
well.
you could have prevented all this
anyway.
Yeah, maybe you could, if you had done your job, you would have prevented them dropping a nuclear bomb on Earth.
So yeah, Koichi's just sort of like gets in the what's left of his family home, and it's not much of it. Like it's even like tattered and all, dripping and stuff. He's trying to eke out a living and survive. Then there's one day he's going through the market, and Noriko is like running through the market and leaves a baby behind, and she runs off, and now Koichi's got the baby, and he's like, what am I doing with this thing? And he watches it for a bit, and eventually he's like, guess I gotta go. And he starts walking, and then Noriko's like, oh, finally you came out. I couldn't just like walk up to you. Come on, give me the kid, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to hold him for a minute.
Yeah, he's like, he's so confused by this, but she's so like sure of herself, and she like basically ends up like getting like looped into him, and these two become this like sort of cute little couple with this adopted daughter. Yeah, like this adopted kid who's not her kid. She just found a kid and was like, I gotta take care of a kid, and I can't let this
parents
kid
were dead.
not,
The war.
So these two become parents, this cute little girl, and the years go by, and Koichi starts.
He's like a dick to her. Like
he's a bit of a dick.
Little girl.
Yeah, he's a dick. He's a dick to Noriko, not so much the little
and the
girl.
little girl too. At first.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah,
he's full of guilt.
He'd be like, "I'm not your father," and like she'd be like, "Daddy," he'd be like, "I'm not your father," and be like, "You're eat shit to her and shit like that.
Well, I mean, he's having
He's
issues. He's
literally just
got a lot of
racking
PTSD.
So Don't be a dick, buddy.
He's got that GTSD, man. So basically, he eventually gets a job working on a fishing boat where they're cleaning up mines that have been placed along the coast of Japan.
Mine sweeping, so it's good pay.
Mine sweeping.
You click one sweep, you click one mine, and then the other ones around it open up, and you got to click the other mine. You just
But you
right
watch
click
out
it.
for the sad
Watch
faces.
out for the fives or the you don't hit those.
I put many hours into mine sweeping myself.
That's a very dated reference for anyone who is not under the age of 30, even probably under age of 35.
Back when computers had 3 games: Solitaire, Hearts, and Minesweeper.
Yeah, Minesweeper was obviously the best. I used to play it up until recently at my old job, and sometimes when I had nothing to do.
Oh wow.
So yeah, these guys are basically minesweeping the ocean, and this is when things start picking up, where Godzilla starts showing back up, and these guys freak out and they start doing the thing. So Davin, this was your favorite scene. It also happened to be my favorite scene because this is a scene, in my eyes, that makes Godzilla truly terrifying in this film.
Oh, this is cool scene.
And I like boats. I just like everything's scarier if it's on a boat.
So he's got a mine in his mouth, and Koichi's just going ham with these 50 cal guns. Because he knows what he's got to do.
I almost picked this same sort of scene from Beast of 20,000 Fathoms, where like the boat kind of happens across the monster in that one too. Very similar scene to this.
So yeah,
because I love the allegory for like, especially in like back in the day, like even during World War II times, like the ocean had monsters, and like. So like it's sort of
this
an allegory
part's
for,
so
like,
terrifying.
This
This part right here, the healing and how fast he heals after just eating a bomb to the face, and he's like, okay,
he's pissed. Yeah, this was a great shot. Yeah, this is a great scene.
Yeah, it's really good. He's quite terrifying.
And then Godzilla proceeds to be attacked by what remains of the Japanese naval force at the time. It sort of deals with the ships. It ends up wrecking a ship. These guys end up escaping by the hair of their chinny chin chin, go back to Japan, and they proceed to
still following us.
Yeah, they proceed to start telling people like, "There's a monster out there. We've got to prepare for this. It's coming to this. It's getting closer." And they start like laying out sort of like markers throughout the ocean, and they start noticing it's getting closer. And then they start devising a plan of how to kill this monster before it like gets to the city and stuff like that. But it ultimately
Funny
does
enough,
get to the city.
also using a roller coaster.
Yes, roller coasters do get a lot of love tonight.
I guess so, yeah.
A roller coaster of love.
So as you saw in the trailer,
Sorry, I'm glad somebody got that.
As you saw in the trailer, there's a scene where Noriko is like on a train and she's like looking through the window, and Godzilla's like breaching the ocean and starts walking through, and then you just get this chaotic scene of him just like walking through, demolishing the city, tail sweeping. Like, it's so
See any of those memes that has Godzilla with the super long legs? Because he's in
at the ocean,
yet he looks like he's walking, but he's actually swimming. But like he looks like he's walking, so like those memes are pretty funny.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because there are scenes where he's almost like above the water, like he's walking along. Yeah.
Well, I mean, just at the end of that scene, it looks like he just stands up.
It rises up. So,
but it's funny because you would think
confusing.
He either, if he's not standing, you just see his feet going like this because he's just like just doggy paddling up as much as he can. It's just kind of funny to think about, But he's certainly more imposing that way, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Far more imposing. So yeah, Godzilla, smashes the city. I think there's like one or two times that he ends up going through, and in one of these times, Koichi and Noriko are like trying to run away from him, and then he does like a big atomic blast and basically blasts Noriko into like oblivion. She's completely gone. Koichi somehow survives this again. Like, this man is the like king of surviving catastrophic events. Just can't die, can't kill this man. But he loses his girlfriend and proceeds to like go back to his home and take care of the little girl, and he's super sad and heartbroken, and then he becomes determined, and he's like, we're gonna kill this monster. It's like, how are we gonna do it? It's like, oh, we're gonna get this plane. And he ends up like getting the engineer that he met on the island to come have a fight with him, and then get back to the he basically meets him up in the airplane garage where these like JW-72 back propelled jets are, and he convinces them to fix it in time so that they can take down Godzilla, because they devise a plan with the Japanese government and anybody that's willing to like sacrifice themselves basically to
back to
strap
suicide, back to
yeah,
suicide bombing. Yeah.
yeah, have a suicide bombing pact where they're gonna strap Godzilla, basically like the old those old films where the giant gets like knocked down and they like tie him to the sand beach. They're doing something like this with Godzilla. Strap him and they're gonna decompress him down to the waters, and hopefully that crushes him.
It's like Gulliver's Travels.
Yeah, that's the one. Ultimately, this doesn't work. Godzilla's too powerful for decompression crushing, and he comes back up, and Koichi, like, he's like, all right, we're gonna drop like the big fat bomb in his mouth, and he like basically does some like cool maneuvers, flies it into his mouth. Godzilla eats it. He escapes. There's this big explosion. You think Koichi's finally done the suicide run, but he actually once again survives and parachutes.
He's very like
resilient.
Yeah, resilient. His fortitude in this is astounding.
Yeah. So he ends up surviving that, killing Godzilla, blowing him to itsy bitsy pieces, and everyone's rejoicing. He goes back to the city, where he finds out somehow, some way, Noriko survived one of the initial attacks, and he goes back to the hospital with the daughter, and they reconnect.
I know it's like the happy ending, but I was very happy. Like, I was very happy she survived, because I was like, this guy's been through the ringer. He needs a happy ending. Because he wouldn't even let himself, like, because he did have feelings for her, but wouldn't even let herself fall in love with her because he was so guilty. Like, he really didn't think he deserved to live or deserved to be happy at all because he failed. So
he went through so much. So it's like, okay, he gets the happy ending, but like this is actually the one thing in the movie that stuck with me that I didn't enjoy, is like, how the hell did she ever survive that? I don't feel like she should have survived that. It's down for me.
Do you hate happiness, Murphy? Do you hate?
I don't hate happiness, but I applaud a director that's willing to like give a movie a dark ending.
Fair enough.
For the sake of like for the sake of the impact. If she stayed dead and he just had to deal with raising a kid on his own, that's fine. He can find happiness in raising a child on his own and living a life that way. Does he need her? Not so much.
No, but like, he did love her, and like, they're finally good to get to be the family that they always probably should have been.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I enjoyed those sort of those moments. But yeah, ultimately she's in the hospital. She's got like this black scar on her neck sort of deal, and
I don't know if they still want her with that scar. It's a little,
Well, there's some explanation in that. Again, I'll get to that in the movie morsels. Right. But ultimately, end of the movie, and then you get this sort of shot where the heart of Godzilla is beating at the bottom of the ocean, which is, leading to potentially another sequel to this incredible Godzilla film.
Yes, very incredible.
Okay, Spacebar Davin.
I was gonna say, Davin, you're clicking. It's very loud.
I'm doing up the final chart there for the end.
Oh, okay, that's what you're doing. I thought you were just sending a long letter.
No, I'm working here. I'm working here.
Dear
Koichi 4, Godzilla 0.
Dearest Marjorie, I hope this letter finds you well. I am currently in a podcast.
Why does it say Die Bart Die? It says Die Bart D.
Bart D.
It's German. It means the Bart.
The Bart.
Well, no one who speaks German could be an evil man.
It's true. All right, which performance would you hold up? I'm gonna give it to Koichi. He's really good. Might be the obvious pick, but I'm gonna go with it.
Well, I'm glad you picked him because I feel like he needs some due, but I also wanted to pick somebody else. He was great in this. He was fantastic. Give it to Murph next.
I was gonna say I'm probably gonna give it to Seiji, the engineer that was
the old guy with the white hair.
Not the old guy with the white hair, but the tall.
No, the scientist guy.
the engineer that was on the island in the beginning, and then the one that comes in around the end with the like he helps him fix the plane and he gets into a fight with him and stuff.
Oh, that guy.
Oh yeah, he was great. Yeah,
he was great. I want to give it to the guy with the gray hair and the glasses that was in the mine thing with them, and then becomes part of the. He has a few like scenes where he has some lines that are like he's quite a good actor. I really liked him in that. I can't remember his name though. He was like with them,
was the other guy.
He was with them in the initial mining thing, and then was part of the whole battle against him. He's kind of like a scientisty dude as well.
Yeah, I think that was Tachibana, maybe.
Yeah, Tachibana, who you're talking about, Murphy, the guy who comes back.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm talking about the guy with the gray hair and the glasses. I liked him.
Yeah, I know. Noda was the doctor. Yeah, he was funny. All right. Well, thanks for your help here, Insanity Pepper. You get helping us get through this review here.
Good job, buddy. We need people like Insanity Pepper.
Yeah. So setting aesthetic. I mean, like as Murphy said a bunch of times, it looks gorgeous. I think we can move on.
Oh, it's beautiful, beautiful movie.
All right. Well, let's get something to eat because it's getting late.
I hope you're ready for a little buffet for Godzilla -1 2023. Gareth Edwards, director of Godzilla 2014, attended a screening of the film and described a feeling of jealousy watching it, stating, "This is what a Godzilla movie should be like."
Yeah, the last one he did seemed like it was heading this way, but really didn't.
Was that what was it called? The Toho one?
No, the first one of the new ones, the one with Aaron. The guy played Quicksilver in it.
Oh, that one was awful.
It was the best one of those ones. I like that movie. The second one, Godzilla King of the Monsters, was not that great.
Yeah. Instead of creating a new roar, the crew simply played the original Godzilla roar over loudspeakers and recorded the audio.
Perfect.
Awesome. The -1 refers to the fact that Japan had already been devastated by World War II, brought down to 0. But with the emergence of Godzilla, it puts Japan into the negative. This is reflected in the film's original Japanese tagline, which translates to post-war Japan from 0 to minus.
It's funny because as a prequel, essentially, I think it's supposed to be to the first Godzilla. I assume. I don't know if it is or not. Maybe it's just a new.
Yeah, it kind of feels like a prequel to the first Godzilla. Yeah, that's kind of how I always perceived the minus bit. But yeah,
that's true. But if it is, it's a great way to do it both ways. But I do like that much better.
Yeah. During its attack on Odo Island, Godzilla bites down on the mechanics to kill them, but does not eat them. This follows a rule long ago established by Toho that Godzilla must never be depicted eating human beings. When the people of Tokyo rise up with a plan to beat Godzilla, there is no army to help them. After World War II ended, Japan was forced into disarmament, unable to form any army or build military equipment under orders from the United States. The disarmament ended in 1951. Rather than reuse stock footage of the Operation Crossroads nuclear test, it was recreated entirely with CGI. So all the nuclear shots that were in the opening were CGI.
It's so good. It looks so good.
Yeah, it's just incredibly good. According to director Yamazaki, his Godzilla includes uniquely Japanese aspects, mentioning there is a concept in Japan called tatarigami, spirits that bring calamity. There are good gods and there are bad gods. Godzilla is half monster, but is also half god. One of the tugboats that is brought in to help raise Godzilla from the water is named Ikomaru. Ikomaru, E-I-K-O-M-A-R-U, Ikomaru. This was also the name of the first ship destroyed in the original Godzilla movie. After Godzilla attacks the Ginza district of Tokyo, there are people surveying the rubble with Geiger counters that read radiation of objects. In one instance, they are seen reading radiation off a child's tricycle, which looks exactly like Shin's tricycle at the Hiroshima Peace Museum. Shin was playing on his tricycle when the bomb exploded and was pinned by the house's rubble. The tricycle in the film is also seen amidst collapsed buildings, so it's a reference to a historical object. The film ends on the same note that Godzilla, Mothra, and King Ghidorah, giant monsters.
Ghidorah.
King
Ghidorah's
Ghidorah,
correct.
Giant Monsters All Out Attack 2001 does in that film. Godzilla's heart is still beating after its body is destroyed. The J7W Shinden used in the film was a full-scale replica of an experimental fighter that was developed by the Japanese Navy as an interceptor. Only 2 prototypes were built, with the first flight occurring on August 3rd, 1945, just days before the bombing of Hiroshima. One of the prototypes was destroyed. The other was shipped to the United States for testing and is now kept by the Smithsonian Institution. The real Shinden, a rare pusher-type Japanese fighter prototype with its propeller placed at the rear, had no ejection system like in this film for the parachute bailout. Instead, detaching the propeller with explosives before bailout was considered for the pilot's safety, but no bailout system was tried in practice due to the end of the war. Takashi Yamazaki was weighed in on the mystery of Noriko Oyoshi's neck. Toward the end of the kaiju blockbuster, it's revealed that Minami I want to say Harambe, but it's Hamabe. So.
Harambe!
Harambe?
Why must you remind us of what happened to poor Harambe?
Minami Hamabe's character somehow survived the city-leveling nuclear blast of Godzilla, left with only a black scorch of some kind on her neck. While attending Osaka's Godzilla Fest, Yamazaki informed the crowd that these markings were indeed regenerative cells belonging to the atomic creature, confirming a fan theory. Takashi,
so she's like a weird connection to the monster now in the sequel?
It seems like she's got mutant powers. We'll
nice.
see. Takashi Yamazaki met Steven Spielberg, who told him that he saw the film 3 times. According to Yamazaki, Spielberg first saw it at home and then went to go see it 2 more times in theaters. Yamazaki compared this to being praised by God, since Spielberg was one of the greatest inspirations. Coincidentally, Spielberg himself is also a longtime admirer of the original Godzilla, also citing it as one of his own influences.
That's awesome.
And cinematography by Kozo Shibasaki, edited by Ryuju Miyajimi, music by Naoki Sato, and distributed by Toho. Release date October 18th, 2023, and I guess technically November 3rd. Running time 125 minutes, a budget of $10 to $15 million, and a box office of $116 million, becoming the 3rd highest grossing Japanese film of 2023, surpassing Shin Godzilla as the most successful Japanese Godzilla film. It also attained numerous accolades, including a leading 12 nominations at the 47th Japanese Academy Film Prize, winning 8, and winning Best Visual Effects on the 96 Academy Awards.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that this won an Oscar, even for visual effects, but still really cool that it did.
And Sandy Peppers that wants to know if we actually think a sequel could work. Why not?
Of course.
Why not?
Yeah. How many sequels of Godzilla have there been?
Most of them didn't work though.
Yeah, well, most of them didn't work, but some of them did work. Like there were takes and adaptions of this classic IP through generational histories, and there will be takes and adaptions of this incredible IP.
This will be long after we are gone.
But that being said, Takahashi has set a bar so damn high that anything below it is going to be considered not a great Godzilla film.
Maybe.
And he could have his work cut out for him with a sequel that could be great. Depends on what he does. Probably brings in Mothra. We'll see.
I love Mothra, so I'd be very happy to see Mothra.
Mothra was my favorite as a kid.
In the American movies, they kind of made her like a female. I mean, she always was, but like she has this sort of like the noise she makes whenever she shows up in the new ones, which I don't know. I'm here for.
Sure, why not? I'd watch this again.
Oh, 100%.
Yep.
I
intend to rewatch it again as soon as I get my hands on the colorless version.
Yeah, I'll probably watch that one too. So there you have it. Does it hold up? Of course it does. I mean, I don't think it matched the magnificent hype it was getting, but it was pretty close to that. It was pretty good. Pretty great.
I was very, very happy with this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think this film matched every level of hype it was getting and surpassed it, even in my opinion.
At one point in the theater, I felt like it was like, how long was this movie?
Pretty long.
Yeah, I felt like it was really long, but upon second watch, I was like, yeah, like I said, it paces at such a pace.
It's 125 minutes.
to 2 hours and 5 minutes.
2 hours and 5 minutes.
2 hours and 5
Seemed
minutes.
longer to me when I
Yeah.
first watched it. Second time around, though, not so much. So I really liked it.
Yeah, I agree. First time I watched it, I was like, this was a journey, and I felt like I was there for a few hours.
A giant monster movie rankings. For me, it's going to be Godzilla -1, The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, and then Colossal.
Yeah, it's going to be Godzilla.
But I liked all
-1,
these
Colossal, and then 20,000 Fathoms for me.
Oh, for me, it's Colossal, Godzilla -1, and then The Beast from 20,000.
We all had a different
Really?
order. That's
You
interesting.
think Colossal's better than Godzilla -1?
Yeah, I would watch
loves
that
it.
again. I would watch that again before I watch Godzilla -1. If I had to choose between those two movies, I would choose Colossal. I really like that movie. I don't know.
He's
I
standing by
can't.
it.
You know, it's because I'm a piece of shit that likes to control people, so it really speaks to me. I'm just
That's
kidding.
why you're a professional wrestler.
That's right.
Well, that brings up my. Let's bring up the chart here. So I'm doing a bit of catch up. I was doing a bit of catch up there. So you'll see our. You guys see that? Yeah.
Mhm.
So you can see our today's ones. We have 3 A movies: The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, Colossal, and Godzilla -1. But you'll see some of the other ones after that because I'm playing catch up a bit. But we've had a lot of A movies recently. The C movies are definitely falling behind, so we're not all negative on this show. That's for sure. Not too many C movies, though there are some. The
So
only
many
things I don't have
movies.
here is I have to plug in Sandlot and Stand By Me, but I can't remember where we came down on those. I love them, but I can't remember if you poo-pooed one of those.
I think
Did
they
you
were pretty
poo-poo?
well, if I recall correctly. I think
Are
you
they?
both
Are they
had
3 A's? Okay.
I
I'll double check. I think he might have
Yeah.
pooed Stand By Me, or maybe
I-
even Sandlot.
You poo
no,
Stand
no,
By
You
no.
Me.
did
I
poo-poo
was
Sandlot, didn't you?
No, I poo-pooed
No?
Stand By Me a bit. It
Did
wasn't.
you?
It wasn't totally.
Yeah, I think it got to
can't
be.
I watched it again not too long ago, and I really dug that movie.
Yeah, it's a good
Yeah.
movie. But yeah, so I'll go check that out. But yeah, so where we go. 3 A movies. That doesn't happen very often. So we picked some good ones
Yay.
tonight. We just needed
It's hard,
Andre
it's
here
hard to
be
go wrong
Mr.
with monster
Positivity.
films.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Although there are a lot of like you guys should. I mean, whatever, it's your show. But if you guys are interested in suggestions, I would say perhaps ones that didn't make the cut. To say, hey, this is ones we could have picked that we also really like. So like for me, Pacific Rim would be in this list. I love that movie.
I didn't really like that movie.
Really, the first one? First one's so
yeah,
good.
it was just a lot of CGI and not a lot of much else for me.
A lot of fun. Do you not like fun, sir?
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
I don't find action very fun.
Honey, I Blew Up the Kid would be interesting. Technically, I don't know if we call a kid a monster, but yes.
Well, let's get over to the final take then, I guess, so we can get out of here. My final take is, but aren't we the giant monsters?
Oh.
Admit it, Andre. Are you a giant monster, Andre? Admit it. You're a giant monster.
Maybe emotionally.
In the wrestling.
Murphy,
ring, at
are you a
least.
giant monster?
I mean, I'm only 6. Well, technically I'm 5'11" and a half, so I'm not really a giant by any means. I'm pretty average, but I am a monster.
That's my final take.
A monster of enjoying films and watching them, consuming them. I'm a monster of consuming films. That's where my monster powers come at, I guess. I don't know what kind of tangent you've led me down, Davin, but here we are. I want to say thank you, Andre, for taking the time to hang out with us this evening.
Dude, this is always a blast. I really do dig it. I know I have a busy life and it's tough for me to, but I really appreciate the invite because I do have fun on the show a lot.
No, absolutely, and I want to thank you for taking that time and also taking the time to listen to us yammer about these silly films. You're probably our
We'll
number
get you
one
a
fan.
special mentions with Myette. Little segment there where you can pick some movies we didn't pick.
That's a nice idea. I'd be down
yeah,
for
I
that.
like that. Yeah, we can.
I would 100% be down for that.
Um,
Special mentions with Myette. That works very well.
Speaking of special mentions with Myette, Andre Myette, where can people find you?
Facebook, social. I'm on a lot of social media channels. I guess I'm on Twitter, but I don't really use it. Instagram and Facebook. Instagram, Mr. Myette. Facebook, just me, Andre Myette. I think it says old school because it's my wrestling thing. Check me out on the Graphic Histories podcast, another show I do where I interview folks, and with my good pal Davin over there on X-Rated, the X-Men Anime Review Show, which we watch and review the everything X-Men. Essentially, it used to just be the X-Men show, the original show, but we've evolved beyond that because we eventually reached the end of it. And
we just did Deadpool Wolverine. Check that out.
Which talking about movies that are fun. I think we said that. I was like, ostensibly, would you say this movie's like the most artistically whatever movie ever made? Probably not. But was it a hell of a lot of fun? Absolutely.
It's my Pacific Rim. I was just there on.
That's what I was just thinking.
I haven't seen it yet, so I'm looking forward to seeing Deadpool and Wolverine. Hopefully, this.
But it had some heart.
Sweet.
It had some heart as well.
When Superman shows up and they get in a fist fight, it's amazing.
If you want to hear all of their reviews about Deadpool and Wolverine, go check it out at the X-Rated X-Men Animated Review Show. With that, we're gonna dip into the ocean and fade away. Join us on the next episode where we get into some stop motion actions. Gonna cover Isle of Dogs, Pinocchio,
More Harryhausen from me.
I'm happy to see Isle of Dogs represented and Pinocchio. I love those movies. Man, you guys picked some bangers on that one. I mean,
Clash of the Titans is the other one, isn't it? No,
that's Jason the Argonauts.
Yeah, I picked Jason the Argonauts. Yeah.
So we got Jason the Argonauts, and we're gonna have guest David Folda, content creator extraordinaire, show up for that one episode. So it's gonna be a good time. So watch those films and join us. And as always, enjoy the movies, and we'll talk at you next time.
Beam up some Star Trek content with Live Long and Podcast. Tune in to X-Rated, the X-Men Animated Review Show. Artistic interviews with graphic histories. A roundtable movie discussion with Hey, did you see this one? And movie reviews with Hold Up, a movie podcast. And while you're at it, spin a few records with Eamon on Track. Watch us duke it out on trivial debates. And let's chat about TV with the Super Mater Brothers. It's all here on the United Federation of Podcasts.